Hey, hey everyone! It's a Pontificators night. We are going to rock your world with another exciting episode. Do we call these episodes, webisodes, streams? We have
What season are we in?
really, Todd. What season are we in? Like we've been doing this for quite a while now. Is this the second year?
I think this is at least season two. Well, no, it's definitely season two because we ended season one. We were gone for a while, and then we started it up again. So this is definitely season two.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for a while. So as always, we got Todd Mulrooney, we got Comic Book Bob, and we may get a couple stragglers later. I think Clint Helinski said he might be bopping in later, and maybe Joe Suntag might be coming in as well. I think Peter Samedi said if he can get off, I think he's get off once he gets off on a show, gets off a show. There you go. Yeah, he might be coming in as well. Wow, there's a lot of really just bad stuff there. Don't use it against me, you guys. But yeah, the topic is there is multiple lawsuits going on right now. So there are creatives, family members of the creators of Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, just a bunch of them, Hawkeye, that are suing Marvel, and then Marvel has now a counter lawsuit, and then we're going to see how that plays out. But we're going to give you some context in a bit, and all that other good stuff, and then we'll pontificate the hell out of this. So, Todd, how you been?
I've been good.
What you been up to?
Not much.
Drawing?
A little bit.
A little bit. Creator?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bob, you been drawing? You been inking?
Yeah, I've been doing things. Definitely been doing things.
Been doing some stuff. Yeah, you know.
Been doing things.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Black and White. That what is it? Black and White Volume 2. It's the what 67 456.
Yeah.
Close to 68,000. 68,000 is doing good. You're doing good. You're doing good, kid.
You're doing good, kid. Yeah. Let's explore that real quick, just to annoy Todd, because that's what we do here. So here's Black and White Volume 2, Man versus Machine. In a world where law and order is often blurred to gray, justice can only be black and white. So like Bob said, 67, 456, 807 backers. We are so close to 1,000 backers. That is the magic number, you guys, for these campaigns. We just started.
You're good.
We just started our second 30. So we got 26 days left. And let me play this video and see what this is all about. Let me turn up the sound here.
From RT there comes the exciting conclusion to the Black and White origin saga. 60 days of pulse-pounding action. In a world where law and order are often blurred to gray, justice can only be black and white.
Back at you guys, let's keep this energy going. We got 26 more days. Here's the cover. They are back and badder than ever. So yeah, and then we have some variants here. We got the Kenneth Rappaport variant for Volume 2. We have this one just added. We got Joe Bennett. We got him. You know what? When I come back, I'll show you guys. It'll probably look really bad on camera, but I'll show you what I've been inking. We have the High Octane Adventure here. This is Von Klaus writing and Pedro Eng doing the animated drawing. And so, yes, and we have the Volume 1 second printing with the brand new cover on it. And we got the Grey Capullo variants. Only the Virgin variant is still available, and that's only available in the black and white jam. We got some original story page layouts, only $40, and everything with the exception of the variant, the Grey Capullo variant, is all you can get them as add-ons. So you guys can customize some stuff there. We got a commission. We might be adding some more commissions, and then a bunch of stretch goals, you guys. I think we've unlocked every one of them except the 75K. And at that point, we will have 4 extra pages where it's going to be an epilogue that's written by Joe Thunderbuns.
Ooh.
Yeah, and myself. And that will be added to your book. So we'll go from 64 pages to 68 pages. And then after that, my wife and I, Pamela, have to figure out what to do for 80, 90, and hopefully we get to 100K. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yes.
So, yes, in a world.
In a world.
And we just added this one, you guys. So this is only 72 hours. So this is the exclusive line art variant. So we'll be pulling this bad boy down this Friday, day's end. And if you want to see what the artwork looks like for the line art, this is it right here.
Nice. Now, is this internal? Is this the cover and the internals?
What's that again? I'm sorry.
Is this the cover and the internals?
The internals. What do
The
you mean
internal
by
pages? Are they in black and white as well?
Yeah, no, the internal pages will be color, just the cover.
Okay.
So it's just a variant line art cover.
The
Yeah.
word is interior.
Interior, whatever. Friggin' purist.
Well, you know what? Bob's been drinking, so he's slurring all over the place. But that's okay, man. You know, that's what we do.
I don't give a shit, you bastard.
I don't care. So this is what I've been working on for the last couple days, just in my
Nice.
time. And so look at these bots, man. They're like Kirby inspired. What is it? Is it a nihilist that's kind of got that mouth in the
Yeah. That's kind of an Ultron thing.
Oh, it's
No. Actually, you're right. It's like a cross between a nihilist and Ultron, because Ultron's kind of got that weird like mouth shape that they've got there, but then Annihilus has kind of like the bug-eyed look and the toothy thing.
That's true. Yeah, these are kind of like well, either way, they're kind of Kirby inspired. So it's really neat to see like how Kirby influences getting into the black and white universe. Look at all the Kirby crackle started that.
Yeah. How hard is it to do that stuff? Because I know that could be tedious.
It is tedious, but I used to ink it with a pin, like a dip pin, like a Hunt 102. But now I just, with a marker, it's easy because you just kind of draw a circle and then fill it in.
Yeah. What about like sometimes they kind of like have like a half moon shape where like there's like a divot put into it.
Yeah, you just gotta kind of follow it.
Just white it out or something, or
you just kind of outline it. Yeah, that's a little more challenging than just the circles, but yeah, it's all good. And yeah, you guys, so please go check out Black and White. The link is in the description. Thank you, Bob, for making the segue there. So what happened to Todd? Did he just take off?
I think he may have a connection issue.
Is his wife hitting him again? Todd gets beat up so much on these live streams.
Yep.
Nah, he doesn't get beat up. He doesn't get hurt. He's a man. Yes. So yeah, let's get into it, Bob. So do you have an article, or do you want me to pull up the Hollywood?
Yeah, I got one I could pull up here. We'll start with the Ditko here, and then we'll move into the rest of the people deciding to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah. So hello, everybody. We got Fearsome. We got Victor. We got Mo. We got Mighty Joe. We got Dragon. Yep. We got Roland. Let me click on all these real quick. We got Leg Kick. We got Devil Flyer. Hey,
Devil Flyer.
Bob is here.
I love that guy.
That guy's cool.
That guy's awesome.
The Christian Nomad. I like that. Art, did you just say Pete Smetti is going to get off on the stream? Yes, I Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And
That's a bad choice of words, man.
And I regret it ever since. Yes. So there's no getting off on this stream unless you're Pedro Ang, and then Pedro gets off on every live stream. Oh, we got
DK1. Hola, amigos. I need to learn how to speak another language, man.
Why?
It just so you sound cool, man. Like someone else says something, you could be in a conversation with them.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh man, look at we got J Dollar sign.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Dollar bills. We got here's your hola amigos.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like that was like how cool it would be. Then you respond in kind.
Yeah, you can say hola, can't you?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like Chinese. I know like 5 words, and most of them are on a friggin' menu. So
yeah, my dad spoke French, but he only knew the dirty French words. He didn't really know how to have a conversation.
Those are the best words.
Yeah, he could cuss us out in French, and we never knew that he was cussing us out. So here we go. Here's the article.
All right. So Steve Ditko estate files to terminate Marvel copyrights over Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. So one thing right off the bat, as we're going through this, you'll see they're not suing them for back money. Like there's like a lot of people are comparing this to the Siegel and Schuster lawsuit. And interestingly enough, both lawsuits are being represented by the same lawyers on both sides. The lawyer for DC, who was for DC, is the same lawyer for Marvel, and the lawyer for Siegel and Schuster is the guy that's working with Ditko and the other families.
The DC lawsuit with the Siegel Schuster family, that wasn't that long ago, right?
No,
it's about 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Okay.
It was finally decided about 10 years ago. The lawsuit was going on for quite a bit before that.
I was going to say I thought there was a lawsuit previously.
Well, there was also a lawsuit. Yeah,
we did a show on this. We did a show.
Yeah, we did a show on that. There was also a lawsuit with Jack Kirby's family.
Yeah, that one was lost, right? They lost that one, right?
And technically they lost. They lost originally the Siegel Schuster lawsuit. The Siegel side lost what they because they had kind of like a side thing going on as well. They lost that, and then they settled. They finally settled, even though technically they didn't really win or lose.
Right. I think there was a settlement. It was out of court, and there was a settlement. So the family, from what I understand, the Siegel and Schuster family were compensated and remained
$3 million. Yeah, $3 million apiece, and 6% of what the character had brought in. Which I actually went through and did some math, and it wasn't as much as people think it was. A lot of people think that they got like hundreds of millions of dollars. They did. I think it was like from the movies and the comics. I was able to kind of come up with a rough estimate between 15 and 20 million. Yeah. So when you think about it in context, that's not a lot.
But it's still going. It's in perpetuity.
Right. It's 6% going forward from now on.
Right. And also the thing is, most people don't realize it's a Siegel, right? He created the League of Superheroes as well.
Yeah. And I can't remember, but I think that was kind of something that was kind of shoehorned into the lawsuit as well.
That's why I brought it up.
To prevent a like another future lawsuit regarding those characters. They kind of said, okay, we're going to block all this stuff together. Here's what we're going to offer you, and that's what we'll go with going forward.
Right, because Warner Brothers did. Was it just one season? They had the Legion of Superheroes animated, which was actually not bad.
It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so like the article says here, a recent legal move by the estate of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange co-creator Steve Ditko, which Ditko didn't die that long ago. He died in June of 2018.
Right.
Could result in Marvel losing their respective copyrights over both the Web Slinger and the Sorcerer Supreme. That's a little inaccurate, as we'll see going forward. According to 2 respective notices of termination filed with the United States Copyright Office on August 26th, Marvel artist J.L. Mast, Patrick S. Ditko, and the brother Stico, and the current administration of the latest artist estate is seeking to revoke Marvel's copyright over both the Amazing Fantasy Volume 1 story, Spider-Man, in which the Spider-Man makes his first appearance. So they're not actually suing over like necessarily the character, but the representation of the character in those particular stories.
Because that's all they can stake claim to. They can't
right
to anything other than that. Yeah.
And the Strange Tales Volume 1 debut of Doctor Strange. So it's as it goes on here, it's Ditko's termination of Marvel's comic would not necessarily require the publisher to stop publishing comics featuring the characters. They would still retain the trademark over there, but see them barred from using any of the elements featured in the story. So, like similar to like Spider-Man's web shooters, the Eye of Armageddon. How the hell you pronounce it? Armageddon. Yeah. It's like I do. That's like my brain's.
Well, now that you mix it up, I can't think of it either.
Is it
Armageddon?
Yeah, Agamotto. I don't know.
Yeah, or motocross.
Yeah, the thing, the necklace. But yeah, like those certain elements and like the character look and design. Those are the things that they would not be able to use going forward. Now, these are pretty heavy duty elements when you're talking about characters like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, because those are like synonymous with the character. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man, right. Like that classic Spider-Man look. He's had that look forever. You know, and even when they do these stories where they kind of adjust it and change, they always end up going back to that original look.
Right. And unlike like Superman and like even Batman, that because of the radio show, because of the TV, because of the syndicated shorts and all that. A lot of that stuff was created in those arenas. They weren't all created in the comic books. So like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange were pretty much completely realized. You know what I mean? There wasn't a lot that was added later. There were supporting characters, but Spider-Man and Peter Parker and that was pretty much realized in that Amazing Fantasy. Doctor Strange was pretty much realized completely in his book. So I do think that they do. I mean, this is a pretty good. They do have a good claim here. I mean. Yeah,
and like it says, Agamotto. There you go. Amulet of Agamotto. Also, characters that were created in those books, like Aunt May, Uncle Ben, Wong, the Ancient One, which are pretty and really important elements to those characters. So there's some similarities to the Siegel and Schuster lawsuit. There's some things that are very different from what's going on.
Well, let's go back just for a moment, and what is spurring this on is that there was a legal precedent that it was at 76 or something like that stated that copyright can revert back to the original creators, right? And so that's kind of why we're at this moment in time, because that time has lapsed, and now it can be reverted back, or it can revert back to the family creators. And by the way, welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
What's up? Yeah, and there was also this is something that's been going on actually for a while now, because this came up about 5 years ago, and then there was an extension that was added to it. So this is so if you look at what they've been doing with these characters in the last 5 or 6 years, they're doing things to kind of alter them.
Yeah.
So that they can kind of pad and like if you look at what they're doing with the characters right now, we were just talking about this before we started. Both Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are about to be killed off. Spider-Man for the second time. They're about to be killed off in the comics and replaced by characters that were created elsewhere. Ben Reilly for Spider-Man, and they're not really saying who's going to replace Doctor Strange. But we know it's probably going to be. It's definitely not going to be one like Wong or somebody like that. So it's almost like they're kind of preparing for this thing, so that they can continue the books going forward while they're trying to deal with this thing.
Well, remember the early Pontificators, we were trying to figure out why is Marvel changing these characters, and then we would speculate because they're actors now and they're going to age out, so they got to bring in younger actors. So that's
which is part of it, I think.
But there's this as well, because if they can change the characters enough, they don't even have to deal with this. You know what I mean? Like they'll basically have created a new Spider-Man, that will be the Marvel Disney brand Spider-Man moving forward.
So I look for Miles Morales to take over at some point.
Yeah,
probably.
Well, that's definitely like one of the things that the reason why they think they did that is that so that they have a character that I think it's multiple reasons, but that's one thing is like we completely own this character. We don't, it's not beholden to anybody. But we've also seen them making these small adjustments to characters here and there, so for, like using Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, for instance. They've completely divested her from Marvel at this point.
Right.
So if something comes up with the rights to Marvel, which like the original version of her would be connected to that character, like we're going to see with a lot of these characters that are being they're being sued for in Avengers. A lot of the characters that are connected to those characters would also be part of that thing as well. We're seeing them change the origin stuff of characters and whatnot to cut them off from those characters. So it's one of those things where.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, just behind the scenes. Sorry, behind the scenes. Obviously we know that they have agendas and things for doing these characters, but I think that's also one of the things behind the scenes as well is because of the precedent that was set back in the late 70s. They're looking at this going like, okay, well, how can we protect our bottom line without having to worry about this stuff?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what they're doing is they're just trying to create and rebrand these characters to the point where they can just not even have to acknowledge the original creations and creators. So I think it's absolutely criminal. But keep reading.
Yeah. They actually go into the legality of it here a little bit. The logistics of copyright termination law are, as I say, complicated, as noted by Robinson, Bradshaw, and Hinson via Believe Equals Rich Johnson. Take that with a grain of salt. Attorneys John M. Conley and Nichelle N. Livy in regards to the historical legal battle between Siegel Estate and DC Comics regarding the copyright of Superman. The basic rule for works created and assigned prior to 1978, which 1978 was that cutoff date that we were talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Is that termination can be effective anytime within a 5-year window that opens exactly 56 years from the date copyright was originally secured. So if, as in Siegel, a copyright was secured on April 1938, the 5-year termination window opens on April 18th, 1994. But even if that window is missed, if the work was in its renewal term in 1998, a second 5-year window opens 75 years after the copyright date. So basically, it's like it's kind of up in the air and it's kind of messy and whatnot. But what's going on with Spider-Man is it's hit that 56-year point, I believe, and that's what's being discussed right now. So they're going to say the Schuster's heirs are like we're seeking to take advantage of this provision, having given notice of their intention to terminate in 2013, 1938 plus 75 years. If the work is first created or signed after 1978, the termination can generally be effective anytime during a 5-year window, beginning 35 years after execution of the grant. So that's what's happening right now with Spider-Man and the Avengers. Taking these legal provisions into account, the window to terminate the copyright over Spider-Man initial publication in 1962 would open in 2018 and end in 2023. And that's what they're saying is like by June of next year is when this thing would start, and they would have to go to court and figure all this stuff out.
Let me just ask you, none of us are like lawyers here, but if Marvel didn't do anything and then that time, that 2023, deadline hit, would it just revert?
It would automatically, from my understanding is it just automatically reverts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so that's why they have between now and June of next year to put something on the books, which is why they just did it now.
Right.
They put it on the books now to get ahead of that date. But if between now and the 23rd, this thing doesn't go to court, if they can't like really work something out between them and whatnot, then it would start. Then the proceedings to revert back to them would start at that point. But it's looking like they're basically getting ahead of it right now.
Right. And Marvel's trying to build a case because basically Marvel has to build the case, right? I mean, there's already the family's already covered. There's a law that is already inactive that will cover that. So they're still going to have to defend themselves, with a lawyer and stuff.
Yeah.
But they do have the law on their side at this point. But what Marvel's going to have to do is try to muck up the water as much as they can legally to discredit the validity of what they would be getting, right? I mean, like because there's 56 years, of lore that these cannot, claim. And I don't think they are. Like you said, it's amazing. At least for the Ditko family, it's amazing fantasy. And what's the Doctor Strange book?
The Doctor Strange book was
Mystery.
It was Mystery, Strange Tales Volume 1.
Strange Tales
Volume 1, number 110.
Yeah.
But what it looks like, and like you said, it takes time for them to build their case. Because the other thing they have to do is they have to go through and they have to find everything that's connected to every one of those elements that they're talking about. Because the Eye of Agamotto has been in other stories. Spider-Man's characters have been in other stories. So anything that's connected to them or that was directly came off of this would also be affected by this thing as well. So it's like you said, they're getting ahead of it now because they know that they've got a lot of legwork to do to figure out.
They got a lot of legwork to do, man.
Yeah, because there's a lot of history to go through.
Well, also there's the film stuff too, where they were kind of building on the mythology that was built here in those two books. And we're just mainly talking about the Ditko family right now. But every one of those is it like a joint lawsuit with all the families that are being represented by the same lawyer?
I think the Ditko family is being represented by that lawyer. I think he's also representing a couple of people in the Avengers one.
Okay,
I think there's other lawyers. It's like there's this one, there's the Ditko lawsuit, and then there's the other one running parallel to it.
Okay, so they're not like a joint lawsuit where they're going in like a group. Because I was thinking that they might have more power that way, but also there might be more like if one fails, then it might actually be a domino effect, and then it could collapse on the other ones too. So
I think they're collaborating with each other is what's going on. I think both laws. I think because one was filed. Because the Ditko one was filed first, and then the Avengers one was filed after that.
I don't think the killing of these characters has anything to do with this, by the way. Because
I don't either.
You can't throw in a derivative character to replace a legacy character and then wipe away copyright. It doesn't. There's laws against that. So you can't replace Charles Brown with Chuck Brown, and that's a whole different Snoopy's game.
Yeah. Like what they're doing,
real quick, if you guys know the answer. Okay, I think Joe brought up Miles Morales. Okay, so Sony they still have the rights to Spider-Man. So what rights do they have up to what? Because they did that Into the Spider-Verse.
They had this Spider-Man universe.
Right.
They have the entire.
So they
have everything in the Spider-Man universe, but they only have it. They only have it for film.
They bought the rights before Miles Morales was created.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
So how did they get Miles Morales?
I wonder if it just kind of
because he's connected to the Spider-Man universe.
That's what I was going to say.
It's just a derivative.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Marvel screwed themselves big time. So even moving forward, oh my god! I heard
that's
that
why a lot of people
Spider-Gwen. They got all those characters in. Huh?
This goes down to characters that have only appeared because just by chance have only appeared in Spider books like Jackal and what's the guy with the purple mask that has a rose?
The Chameleon.
Yeah, stuff like and characters like that. They go down to that far to the villains and stuff that haven't appeared, that are known to be. I think it is known to be part of the Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, but
they're not known to be anything else.
Yeah, but when you buy, this is what I thought. Okay, so when Sony bought Spider-Man, everybody knew that Sony was getting a crazy good deal. But
Right.
at the time, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wasn't even a dream at that point, or it wasn't even close to happening.
The Rose,
So
yeah.
then you have Sony that's bought this thing. They're making movies now. They're kind of making this whole cinematic Marvel Universe thing viable. But how the hell did they not get the universe from this moment in time back? They got it from the inception all the way in perpetuity. That
was the deal that Avi Arad made with them.
That's crazy.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, think about that.
That's why, dude.
It's a hell of a business
Sony,
deal.
okay, and I heard speculation. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited here, but I heard speculation that Sony is like, they're never going to let go of Spider-Man.
They will never.
Because I had no idea the rabbit hole went that deep. So they also have attachments to Spider-Man moving forward. Holy shit!
There are ways they can lose it. By the way, they can't cause the character harm, right? So if they put out a bad movie like Fantastic Four, they can lose it that way. If you've done more harm than good to the character, then
I'm sure there are legal loopholes that Marvel and Disney can use to get in there. But at this moment in time, holy shit!
Yeah, and
like a bad deal. Man.
Marvel actually asked them at one point within the last like year and a half. They asked him how much they tried to buy. They tried to buy him back.
Yeah,
and the number that Sony threw out was ridiculous. According to some reports, it was as high as $10 billion.
Holy shit!
Well, think about it. It's moving forward. Like Marvel/Disney now, everything they build within that Spider-Man universe now is fair game for Sony.
Sony gets a part of it,
Because I was trying to figure out, why did they do the Miles Morales thing? Why did they do that? And now it's
a bunch of money
there because it's ownership of Miles Morales. It's like a major. I mean, it was a good movie, but it's a major middle finger. Like, look what we can do. We can take your, new characters that you just created, and we can use those.
Well, I mean, they're creating the Spider-Verse or Venomverse or whatever you want to call it right now, opposite or outside of the MCU. So they're leaning into all the characters. They do have Venom, Kraven, Morbius. You hear all these,
the Sinister.
And that's
Sinister Six, like Silver Sable. I heard for a second. I don't know what's going on with that, but they're talking about trying to do a movie with that character.
Yeah.
Sony's going all out with everything. They own a lot of freaking characters. I mean, if they own the entire Spider-Man universe, that's a shit ton of characters.
Well, I'll tell you,
not only that,
all Sony has to do is start hiring some really good people, because there are talents that could make some great movies for them. Because holy shit, they're sitting on the golden goose. Man.
They could use a sort of Kevin Feige role over there.
Here's the idea. Here's the idea.
These actors, and he does. He gives them things they want and stuff. They really could use somebody like that over there.
And to give you an idea of just how lucrative Spider-Man just by himself is. Just from, and this is the amount. This is just from the 7 movies and the 1 video game that just came out year before last. $7.187 billion. That's how much that the box office and the game has brought in. And after you take out production cost, which was like for everything together was like 1.65 billion. Production costs, you split the box office with the theater owners. You take out a quarter of it for investors, just in pure profit. This is like the number of dollars they put in the bank. $1.56 billion.
Wow!
From one character. And like I said, that's not factoring in the TV shows. That's not factoring in the other video games, all the other licensing, merchandise, toys, things like that. Spider-Man is the biggest Marvel character, period.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people at the time, Avi Arad was looked at as the savior of Marvel, because Marvel was going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he went and made these crazy draconic deals with Hollywood that saved the company, but in the long run, it really, really they got reamed. And
Wasn't Marvel
so
getting like a ton from each movie though? Like,
Well,
did they get
Marvel
like a
gets a
flat
big-
rate, like a 20 million from each movie or some shit like that?
Marvel gets a big chunk of it no matter what.
Yeah, like some.
well, you mean Sony? So yeah, Sony gets like.
Well, I mean, Sony
no matter
does,
how
but like
much-
Marvel
yeah.
got like a percentage of each movie that was made. So I mean, like that, they got a lot
yeah.
of money in the deal as well.
Oh yeah, from the
Mhm.
Sony, from the
Well,
Sony stuff, yeah.
In retrospect, it's nowhere near what they could have made.
Yeah, now
If-
now that it's making so much, you know,
Yeah.
like when you look at the money that they're bringing in now.
Well, also just think about this. This is the ultimate, like this is the bane. This is the one thing that Disney Marvel may never ever get their meat hooks in. Spider-Man is the Marvel Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean? Like this is the character. It's like having the DC universe but not having Superman. You know what I mean? Like
he's one of the
Disney's always going to have to play nice. Marvel's always going to have to play nice with Sony because Sony has all the cards. Wow,
he's one of the foremost. He's one of the foremost recognized character / brands.
Yeah,
actually, no. He's one of the 5 most recognized characters / brands in the entire world. You've got McDonald's, you've got Superman, you've got Batman, you've got Mickey Mouse, and you've got Spider-Man. Those are the 5 most recognizable brands in the entire world.
Well, Hello Kitty. Let's not forget Hello Kitty.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah.
Well,
actually, you're not wrong. It's up there too. But like those 5 are like the most recognizable brands in the
honestly. Honestly,
it's crazy. Yeah, go ahead,
I would almost rather Sony have Spider-Man at this point. Like, I like a lot of stuff that Marvel has done with Spider-Man since they brought him into the MCU, as far as costume, casting, things of that nature. But they really aren't telling a actual Spider-Man story.
No,
like they got rid of Uncle Ben. A lot of things that made Spider-Man, and you replace that with Tony Stark and like all of this other stuff. So at least Sony, with the exception of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, because I wasn't a big fan of those, or Spider-Man 3, but they started off with the Sam Raimi movies, really good, true to the character. I thought I really dug those. Those are some of my favorite Spider-Man movies made. I think if Sony can get back to that, that would be awesome. If they, because I know that eventually he's going to go back to Sony. Like he's got 2 more movies he has a deal with Marvel right now, and then he's going to go to Sony.
I thought it was only one, but it might.
Well, I think he's. Yeah, you're right. I think he has 1 more movie after the one that's coming up.
Right. So this one and one more. Right.
Yeah, and then it reverts back. Interestingly enough, though, they're saying that the rumor is that the end credits for Venom: Let There Be Carnage makes a direct connection between.
I keep hearing stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah, that's the scuttlebutt that's coming through. But getting back to the article. See here right here.
Well, before you go to the article, let's go back to this idea that the Sam Raimi movies didn't have their soft shoe stuff.
Yeah, they were
dancing and singing.
I said besides 3. I said that.
Besides
3.
And the all of a sudden I've lost my powers because it's in my head thing.
Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way. I feel like the portrayal of the characters. I feel like the portrayal of
good movies, really good movie. I wish I could edit.
Yeah.
Well, I want to
Interestingly enough,
like Todd. Okay, I'll tell you, there was one major faux pas in those Sam Raimi films. Since we're getting into it, all right, and that was Tobey Maguire. I cannot stand that guy.
Oh, you don't like Tobey?
Yeah, like there are people that you may have never even met face to face, but you just kind of want to punch him in the face. And that guy is the most sad sack human being I've ever seen. And he's like in almost every one of his movies. He plays like the same guy. And oh my gosh,
Spider-Man's the only movie I actually liked him in, to be honest with you.
He kind of has like that constant face look on his face,
Yeah. But I think that Andrew McCarthy that was in the 2 that you didn't like, Joe.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, that's it.
Yeah, I didn't like Garfield.
Like the first one, the second one was whatever, but the first one, I thought it was kind of a cool. It was a different take on Peter Parker, but I thought it was interesting, and I thought he was an actor that I liked, because I always liked Spider-Man, but I never really liked Peter Parker as a character when I was a kid, because I always thought
Right.
Peter was kind of a loser. Like I couldn't really I couldn't really
Well,
get into it. And then all of a sudden, like as Spider-Man, he's completely functional. So that Andrew, what's his name?
Garfield.
Garfield, he kind of played like he was kind of a nerdy kid, but he wasn't beat up all the time. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't kind of like a loser. He was.
You got to remember there are two.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Remember, there are two. Actually, there are two Peter Parkers. There's the Peter Parker that was initially introduced, who was the sad sack character. You know what I mean? But then, and I'm trying to remember, they actually have the scene in the first Marvel film, Homecoming. That scene where he gets trapped under the rubble, and he thinks he's going to die. Like in the comics, like there's a reason why they put that in that movie. That's a super important moment in Spider-Man's development, because before that, he's the sad sack character. But after that moment, that's when he became Spider-Man. Because at that because if you look at his character development after that, he's no longer the sad sack character. He's much more confident. He's much more self-reliant and self-sufficient. That's when Spider-Man becomes a man.
The only thing I didn't like, though, is they always made him like in the shadow of Tony Stark.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, when Far From Home came out and he was like dealing with the death of Tony Stark, up to that point, I had enjoyed what they had done with Spider-Man, but I didn't like that we were still carrying out this whole, I can't live up to this. And then, in that aspect, he went to Europe or wherever he went, I can't remember, and was really kind of doubting himself a little bit of not even wanting to be Spider-Man. I was like, man, already? It's like only the second movie of this character.
Well, that's the thing I didn't like about that movie, because you have that moment in the first movie, like I was just talking about.
Right.
And you look at him after that moment in that movie, he's not the same person anymore. He is the more
great
confident.
Point. I mean, look at him in Infinity War.
Yeah. And then in the second movie, he reverts completely.
You're right.
He goes
in Infinity War, he was exactly like you're talking about. He was much more confident in Infinity War, gung ho, ready to take on things and be the hero. Yeah, and then they revert him in Far From Home, and he's back to being, like this doubtful. Yeah, exactly. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, and that's why I
never
say
understood it. Like he's like Peter is still Spider-Man. He still has all those abilities and stuff, and it seems like you would have confidence if you could. You had like super strength and you had all that stuff. You wouldn't be that guy anymore. I like what McFarlane did, because he finally gets Mary Jane and and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was good, because I never really saw him as a loser. But some of the ways they have portrayed him, he was that, like when I was growing up, he was kind of the loser character. Right, so I always thought like Marvel Team Up, because it really was just Spider-Man. It wasn't like Aunt May and all that other stuff. The melodrama, it was just like Spider-Man doing cool stuff. So I always liked the character Spider-Man, but not so much Peter Parker. Should we get back in the article, though? Just
real quick, I'll just say another thing that I don't like that Marvel is doing with Spider-Man's character in the movies is I feel like they've really dumbed down his power. Like Spider-Man's way stronger in the comics, way more capable of taking on villains and powerful foes than he is in the movie. I feel like they've really, as much as they've kind of shown his strength a little bit in the movies, they really haven't leaned into like how strong he actually is. Not that he's super powerful, but Spider-Man, he's pretty strong. He can do stuff. He can move some things. He can pick stuff up. And I feel like he's been put in situations in the movie that haven't really accurately shown that.
What was the Spider-Man scene with Captain America? Wasn't there something where Cap threw the shield or something, and then he did there was something like that where he actually showed that he might be able to go toe-to-toe with Captain America.
That's where he was holding up. Basically, he was going toe-to-toe with Cap, and then Cap was like, "Oh, I gotta stop this guy because I don't have time to mess with him."
Oh, he dropped the plane.
He dropped that chunk of the plane on him, and he's holding it up. Like he's holding up this whole big old, because like I said, Spider-Man is actually much stronger. He's even much stronger than he actually thinks he is. Normally his strength level is around 10 tons. But he's like I said, that scene, and it was Ditko who wrote that scene, by the way, from "If This Be My Destiny." I actually looked it up. It's from Spider-Man 31 through 33. The amount of rubble that he's under is like it would take the friggin' Hulk to lift this off of him. Like the Hulk at that particular moment in time, somehow he friggin' powers out of this thing. So they've alluded many times that he's much, much more powerful than he actually thinks he is. It's just that he doesn't realize it. So, and like I said, that moment he stopped being that's when he stopped being the sad sack, and he became Spider-Man. And I was really hoping that that's what we're going to get with him in the movies going forward. And we got it for a little bit, like Joe said, and then he reverts right back to it because they don't know what the hell they're doing with the character.
right, exactly. Yep.
But yeah, getting back to the article, they actually compare this to the Schuster thing. The U.S. copyright further adds that the termination provisions are intended to protect authors and their heirs against unremunerative agreements by giving them an opportunity to share the later economic success of their works by allowing authors of their heirs during particular periods of time long after the original grant to regain the previously granted copyrights or copyright rights. Like the Siegel case, it's possible that such an outcome of Patrick Ditko would subsequently result in comics featuring either Spider-Man or Doctor Strange bearing a similar disclaimer similar to by special arrangement with the family of Jerry Siegel found on stories featuring the Man of Steel. Basically, what this comes down to is even though they're not asking for money right now, this is just about the rights reverting. You know that if they do get the rights back, they're going to go to Marvel saying, listen, you can have this back here, but we want some kind of compensation going forward.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and like I said, as lucrative as that character has been.
Yeah, they have to humble Marvel and Disney first, and Disney's got some crazy ass lawyers, so it's not going to be
all the power and the
leverage. Easy, and I don't think there's any reason to think that these families are going to be able to do that to Disney and Marvel. To be honest, I don't see it really happening. And if there is any kind of settlement, I don't think we're ever going to know about it because that Disney entity is just way too powerful.
Yeah. And to give you an idea of like as hard as DC fought for Superman, the amount of money that Superman has brought in comparison to Spider-Man is nowhere near. I went through all the movies and whatnot with Superman, and it came out to like $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
So the amount of money you're talking about, it's night and day.
Yeah, the thing that's different about like Warner Brothers and Disney as well is Disney does not play well with creators at all, period. And Marvel never did either. Like sometimes you see like, why did these two entities work well together? It's because Marvel and Disney are like the same mindset. It's the IP. The IP is everything. The creators are nothing. The image, why did Image happen? Is because Marvel, we went to Marvel and said, hey, can you pull me up some more dough? And they said, screw you. It's not the creators, it's the IP. And so, once you do that, then it becomes a stalemate. You know what I mean? Then you have to either bring that company to their knees so that they will actually deal with you, or you just walk away. And so I think that that's what you have. But and if you look at the way Marvel treated Lin Wein, okay, X-Men, Wolverine, all of these things, right? I remember talking to Lin, and Lin said, Lucius Fox that he created for the Batman universe, he made more money off Lucius Fox for that one movie, Batman Begins or whatever it was, than he did all the years leading up to that moment for all his creations at Marvel. All of them. You know what I mean? This is a company that doesn't play well with creators. Period. Yeah. They just don't.
That's true.
So when you have the Siegel and you get the Schuster family, going, to Warner Brothers and stuff like that, you're dealing with a company that may have more integrity. They might have more principles. They might actually be more fair-minded. You know what I mean? Versus going after Marvel. Because I don't think anybody over time has ever really successfully got a resolution from Marvel. I think even Stan Lee, if you think about like Stan Lee, we're talking about the Raimi films. Stan Lee had an agreement with Marvel, and then he ended up having to take Sony and Marvel to court just for them to honor the agreement. They were trying to get a written contract.
Yeah, was it that Chuck Dixon just did that article about how Marvel is like super behind on their royalties to creators, and especially international creators. Yeah, like they're like years behind.
Yeah,
jeez.
So and also, that's Marvel. The difference between Marvel and DC. Okay, this is a really fundamental difference. Okay, Marvel does not call their royalties. They call them incentives. Incentives. And in the day when I worked for Marvel, you had to sign a freelancer agreement, which basically meant it was supposed to be like a voucher, but on the back of the voucher, there's all kinds of legalese. And what you're doing just to sign your voucher to get paid, you're signing off on all ownership, of everything, even original pages. They say it's a privilege or whatever. I forget how they word it. They said, they don't say you will get your artwork back. They says it's an incentive or it's something other, that is wiggle room that they don't have to do it. But then the DC contracts are all like, this is a royalty. This is what you'll get. This is, you know what I mean? Like it's all spelled out and it's all up front. So if you think about it, like Marvel has had a history of just being crooked,
Yeah. Well, they're just super cutthroat, and like I said, that's one of the reasons why we know that like I said, the lawsuit doesn't talk about like suing for like back royalties or anything like that, but that the reason why Marvel is fighting this so hard is because if the court does somehow manage to find in favor of Ditko's estate and all the other guys that are suing for the Avengers stuff, that's going to be the next thing they ask for. Is like, okay, we want some kind of back, either upfront compensation and percentage going forward for you to be able to use all this stuff going forward.
Yeah, it's going
to. That's why they're getting ahead of it.
The Siegel-Schuster families, where there's some kind of acknowledgement, and then, like you said, there's going to have to be a percentage, or there's going to have to be some kind of compensation moving forward. If I was the families, I would. If it was going to be a problem, I would just kind of give up the pass, because I think they've already been making something, over the years.
I think I think they were getting something like $25,000 a year.
Wow,
that's something like that. That's Well, I mean, it's something.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's nice, but like when you think of the money that those characters are bringing in, the original creators' estate, it's not like Marvel can't afford to give them a bigger, slice of the pie.
Well, yeah. So I think people, they kind of understand, what we're talking about now. They have, a starting point. So what I want to get into that for me is a little bit more interesting is like is the integrity, the moral. Like what morality should a corporation like? You know what I mean? Because these aren't just like, this isn't me creating, with baby Nicias like Hazard, or like some of the Cable backstory characters. You know what I mean?
Right.
These are essential to the DNA of Marvel. So, like these, it's like Walt Disney creating Mickey Mouse. It's like if Disney decided to go against Walt Disney. You know what I mean? This is what their foundation is built on. Go ahead, Todd.
What did Tim and Deanie get for Harlequin? I'd love to know.
Good question.
Because that's your last pivotal character that was created that has become like iconic character now. You could call her that. Not that I think she's great or whatever, but she has become iconic.
Right.
You recognize her. Yeah, she started out in a graphic novel.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was the animated. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and then she was in it's called Mad Love, the graphic novel. So, what did they get? I'd love to know.
Yeah,
because it needs to happen. it needs to have layers and formulas, and if the character becomes iconic and a big part of our universe, then you would get this forever. And you know what I mean? It just can't, you can't have this keep happening, right?
Yeah,
Because it can.
the corporations hide behind the work for hire contracts. That's all they've ever done. Like even in this, the lawsuit that we're talking about now, like Marvel is saying, it was work for hire. They have no rights to anything, because of the work for hire agreements. But like I'm saying, like from like a moral standpoint, these aren't just fly by night characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't Brother Power the Geek. This is Spider-Man, or this is Superman, or like you said, Todd, it's Harley Quinn. So should these creators be treated differently than other creators? Should all contracts moving forward benefit everybody in the same way, regardless of what they create? You know what I mean? Like how would you write these contracts moving forward? And like I said, if you did create a Superman or a Batman or whatever, is that different than a Harley Quinn? Like if you have Batman versus Harley Quinn, I mean, should they be treated the same way? Should they be
I think if you create a legacy character, they should be treated different, because that's a character that the company is going to make tons of money on for years in advance, down the line for generations, And so when you look back at these guys like Ditko and everybody that created these iconic characters for a company, whether or not those guys are still around, their family's still around, and that should be something that that should be setting up that family for forever. I mean, honestly, that's what I feel. It's not like just creating a side character for a story.
Right.
When you would create Spider-Man, the flagship character of one of the biggest comic book companies in the world, I think that there should be some kind of special treatment there. My opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe
go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead. I was gonna say maybe the solution is to set something in stone going forward, saying like, look, you're creating a new character specifically for this story that could turn into something big. So here's this kind of like a safety net thing. We're saying like, if this character catches on and moving forward reaches like a certain say a certain level of status within the universe, or like a certain level of use or something like that. I mean,
right.
I'm just kind of spitballing here. Maybe then you would revisit and you would figure this thing out.
But how do you qualify?
Yeah, I get that.
That would be really hard to qualify.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
right.
spitballing here like that. Like
right.
I think there should be like me myself personally. I'm always going to side with the creators over the corporation.
Yep.
I think there should be some kind, like you said with DC. There should be some kind of thing set in stone saying, okay, you are guaranteed this level of rights. Okay, you're guaranteed this level, going forward, no matter what. But if you wanted to take that a step further, you could say, okay, and to be revisited at a certain date, should you desire to do so.
Yeah.
Some kind of a provision like that, like you said, like with a Harley Quinn, who basically is pretty much the biggest character that DC has created in the last 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah, probably. Honestly,
so what I was thinking is we talked about this on a past Pontificators, where we were talking about a way for these companies to move forward, like to keep things interesting. And one of the things that we threw out there as a solution would be incentivize creation for these creators again. So going forward, have an initiative. Like DC seems like the most likely candidate to do it. Marvel doesn't. No. We got Clint. Hey, Clint, what's up?
Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, no problem. So you have DC saying like as a whole, like DC Comics covers everything. So all creatives, writers, even inkers, colorists, the whole everything. So where you could pitch an idea to DC for a character, a villain, a new character, whatever. And if that's chosen, then there is kind of like an ownership type of contract that's created. So it can't necessarily be 50-50, but it's maybe 40-60 or whatever. And
Right.
it's in perpetuity and all these things, because like we were talking on the past Pontificators, that the reason why I feel, and we felt, when we were talking about this, that comics aren't moving forward is because nobody's creating anything for these companies, because they don't want to get screwed over, because they have ideas, but they're not going to give them away for free,
Yeah.
But as a company, if you wanted, like, Batman could be refreshed and could be rejuvenated and everything instantly if you create great villains, because your hero's only as good as your villains. So if you create new villains, all of a sudden Batman can seem fresh because he's fighting a whole, different, type of villain. And so then moving forward, you now can incentivize creators to give you ideas, because if there is a joint ownership, and I don't know how legally they would write up these contracts, but it's not mission impossible. I'm sure they can do it. Even if it's not ownership, because ownership is always, all these companies, I remember when I was pitching in Hollywood, they want ownership of everything. They want publishing, they want toys, licensing, they want everything. They just want to buy you out because they don't want to have to deal with you. That's it, right?
They learned their lesson from Lucas.
Right. So what they can do though is they can say it's a 50-50 as far as profit sharing. Like, we'll own the character, because the thing is, if you create a Batman villain, I don't know if you really want to own it anyways, because the villain's only as good as the Batman universe. You know what I mean? They're like shared. It's part of that universe. So it's like the Ditko family. They don't want Spider-Man back because they wouldn't be able to do anything with it.
Right.
They'll make more money having Marvel keep using Spider-Man and them getting their cut.
Right. They just want the profit. And so what I'm suggesting is that there's a profit sharing that could be 50-50 or something like that, where Warner Brothers takes 50 and the creator takes 50.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then you incentivize creators to come out and to do good work for you because they know they're going to get something in return. I know it's never going to happen, but that's kind of, my take.
It makes too much logical sense, so you know for sure that corporate comics aren't going to go for it.
Well, Craig Welter makes a good point there. He said, how much do you want to incentivize new characters, though? You'll have everyone trying to add new characters all the time, hoping they stick instead of using characters effectively like people want them to. So you could end up having the exact opposite effect that you want.
That's why you need a good editor.
Yeah, well,
to be like, like this character works, this character doesn't work.
But if you go back through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was tons of new characters created. There was tons of new Spider-Man villains, tons of new Batman villains. Not all of them stuck. Not all of them are winners.
I see.
But like Joe said, though, you had editors who back then were more than glorified secretaries. They were keepers of the characters.
Well, also, what a problem to have. Yeah, okay, so we can have more characters than we need. Holy shit, everybody's interested. Spider-Man, when that launched, there was a new villain every freaking issue. They were iconic. Like, that's not a bad problem to have. And then
superheroes have the best rogues gallery. Spider-Man's rogues gallery through the first 20 issues. Batman's rogues gallery, Flash's rogues gallery. Okay.
In case in point, why does Wonder Woman suck? She has a horrible rogues gallery. There's no rogues gallery.
Name her third arch villain.
Name her second.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously,
the giant girl and then Tigra, or not Tigra.
I know the cheetah.
Her three biggest ones are Giganta, Cheetah, and Cersei.
Okay,
that's it. And then Ares, I guess.
Yeah,
so
Ares would probably be the more contemporary villain.
So it's like,
but it's not really.
And some of the knocks against Superman is like Superman's villains aren't as good as Batman's villains. I mean, Lex kind of overshadows everything. You got Brainiac, you got Metallo, but like Superman doesn't have that. Like Batman's got the deepest rogues gallery.
Yeah, I was in agree with Bob. It's kind of hard with Superman.
Because he's so powerful.
Because he's Superman.
Yeah. But then you got to work on it as a writer.
Yeah, but I mean, it can be done. I mean, because right now we can't come up with like great villains to fight Superman. But you incentivize it, you make it worth somebody's while to go out and do something, they're going to do it. Why did like great artists come out of nowhere when Image Comics was formed? There was
because they incentivized
The money was flowing.
Yeah, it was flowing.
Well, the problem too is like today. The problem is like you get somebody who does care about the characters and it is trying to like Tomasi, and they get crapped on and thrown away for someone like Bendis.
Yeah.
You know?
And the flavor of the month is always going to be there.
That was the worst. That was like trying to hit a home run and like shanking the ball off your foot and then hitting yourself in the nuts. That was DiDio's. That was like, I mean, there's a lot.
Hit me swinging penalties.
Whatever people think of DiDio, like he was trying to make a big move, and like he was gonna like steal Bendis from Marvel 20 years after Bendis was, a deal. And like, I mean, that full page ad or whatever, that double page.
Yeah.
Bendis gets Superman or Superman gets Bendis is like, that'll live in infamy as just like the biggest pile of nothing that ever.
I don't know of anybody that went, oh my gosh, Bendis on Superman. Like
no,
the exact opposite. I saw all over the place.
I liked Bendis when he first came out. I liked him.
When he first was.
And when he was awesome.
Yeah,
and when he shifted
look
away
at the
from
sales
Marvel,
numbers. Go back in ICV2 and look at the sales numbers when Bendis took over Superman from Tomasi.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah.
There was some bitterness and creative.
Well, it's the same thing with Action Comics. Everyone liked what Jurgens and them were doing, and you kind of completely had to abandon that because Bendis took over the entire Superman line.
And it took a massive.
Or even
jump
what
on it. But here's the thing:
Tomasi and Carlo Barberi and myself were doing on Super Sons. That book got canceled.
Everything
I will never forgive him.
Yep.
I'll never forgive him for he did the Super Sons, man.
That was insane.
But the thing is
it's not. You know what? It's not the only one over there that like. There was this book, something Gotham Academy, and it was really experimental and it was very animated and stuff. You know, the look of it had a different quality, and it was one of their top books. And neither one of those books made it. You know what I mean? Like they were getting critical acclaim, especially Super Sons was getting a lot of attention in the media. Oh, yeah. And then they go, well, you know, we're going to move so and so, and it didn't die. The critical acclaim didn't die for it after Jorge Jimenez left. You had Carlo Barbieri, and it was just as good. And they just didn't know what to do with it. They just
all they had to do is let it exist. Like they
leave it alone.
Just leave it alone.
But like art will tell you too. Like all this stuff happens behind the scenes with editorial. Like they gave Bendis a contract, and I heard lots of different stories about this, but it was gigantic. It was stupidly gigantic, and so they had to prove that contract. So a lot of creative teams on books that were doing well just got steamrolled over just to try and justify that contract.
And how did that work out?
Is Bendis even with DC anymore?
Yeah.
No.
He's
working with Alex
May.
I thought
he left. Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought he left.
Checkmate is what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Checkmate, which is like
he's not doing. Yeah, he's not doing as many books as he was before because they gave him that whole thing with like they would support his creator-owned thing and all that stuff like that. But he's still got his fingerprints on a lot of stuff. But
I'm sure he's got a contract where he's still raking a ton of money and selling and writing books that aren't selling shit right now. Like DC is bleeding money into that contract.
Yeah. I was hoping when he made the jump from Marvel to DC, I was like, okay, maybe we'll get the old Bendis back. Maybe the problem was that he was just bored. They were telling him, we want you to do things like this. I know, I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I was hoping against all hope that maybe that's what would happen. And then
he
within
shot
the
his
first
load
3
15
issues,
years ago, and
Yeah,
that
he
was
just
it.
he repeated everything. He created Riri
Yeah.
Williams, but in the DC universe with I don't even know what
Yeah.
the character's name
There's
was.
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with hoping that somebody's going to be able to,
Yeah, but then
Right,
within the
right.
first 3 issues of the Superman book that he did, he basically just kicked me in the balls. And
Oh, it happened.
It's like-
It happened quickly. Yeah, it
At
happened.
least he
I
got
was
Kevin
just like, God damn it! Why do you make me hope so hard, man?
Well, when I
At least
read
he
the
had like
headline,
Kevin
the headline
McGuire and
that
Adam
came out
Hughes to
almost
draw a couple of
instantly.
issues. Like he dug those guys out of those guys don't
And the
draw
thing is-
regular issues. Like I love
that
Kevin
sucks
McGuire
is-
and Adam Hughes.
Well, he works with great artists, man. He had Ivan Reyes on Superman. I'm like, God damn it, this book looks so good, but the story is such shit.
Mhm.
It's so bad. Like literally, I've never been the biggest Superman fan. I'll be the first person to admit that. When they introduced John, that completely changed for me. That was that's how you take someone like Superman and you really change him up and you make him like really interesting. That completely, I became a Superman fan when John showed up, and then Brian Michael Bendis, and then I became a Lois Lane fan because she changed in that book.
Your mom now.
And then he comes over, and within 10 issues, he takes a massive shit on all of it.
All of it.
She becomes the worst mother in history. It's like, oh yeah, go ahead. I demand that you let our son go into the galaxy for a year unsupervised with your psychotic father who just tried to commit genocide. And then, because I'll be there to stop him. The freaking hell are you gonna do? You know? And then a month after she's out there, she's like, "Oh, I came back and I didn't tell you."
And
Are
Bob,
who writes
think
this shit?
Think about how pissed you are right now, and think about the creators that were working on those storylines for
Oh
2
God,
years.
Tomashi's gotta be like
And we're getting
just-
huge critical fame, bringing the sales up on Superman. Like people were excited about this storyline, and then they brought Bendis in, and they just shit all over it.
Oh my
Like,
God!
think
dude,
about
he's
those
got-
guys that were
That guy has
stoked
got to
about
be
that.
so salty, man.
There's
gotta be
some
looking at it
dudes
going
out there
like-
that are bitter. Still to this day, I guarantee it.
Tomasi's just got to be looking at this going, are you freaking kidding me? All this work that we did, the groundwork that we laid, how awesome this was, how much everybody loved it. We literally took all the things that were negative about New 52 and we reintroduced this character in a new dynamic that just made them fresh and awesome and built more buzz around these books than have been in probably the last 20 years.
And
You bring in this guy who's got a hard on for social justice, who just takes a massive dump all over everything.
And
That's
this is a perfect example of how like comics is like any other job when you break it down to its core. It's like you've got some boss who's trying to like knows that things are shaky right now, and he's trying to grab something to stir it up, and he thinks this is going to be the salvation of everything, and he's totally ignoring like the hard workers that he's already got that are doing a good job for him, and he's just trying to throw a little flash out there.
Well,
It's
the grass is always greener, right?
Yep, it's corporate 101.
Tomasi, they have a great writer, but he's low maintenance, right? He just does his job. He doesn't say much. He just kind of comes in.
And he doesn't have the cachet attached to his name because he was an editor.
I'll tell you right now, it's the squeaky wheel, man. It's the person that's acting out. It's the person that is high maintenance that gets the attention. It's not the guy who keeps
Tom King.
It's the headline done. What's that?
Tom King.
Tom King.
Like you said, it's the guy that's causing chaos and havoc.
The loudest douchebag in the room.
You know what? I learned this early on. Okay, so I'm in high school, right? So I'm talking to the counselor, right? And so I grew up like LA County, a lot of gangs, stuff like that. So I'm in there talking to the counselor. And he's like, "What do you want to do? You want to go to college, whatever?" So I'm talking about future plans. So it's all positive, right? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And so then all of a sudden he's like, "I got to go." These two knuckleheads knifed each other in the quad. And so now, he's out, has to attend these guys. So I'm sitting there in his office for like a half hour waiting for him to come back. And then he had no time for me. You know what I mean?
This is a great story, Art, because two guys are bleeding their guts out in the corridor, and Art's like, "But what about my career?"
It wasn't like this. It wasn't like no.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I'm totally teasing you.
Like there was a 19. It wasn't like the guy was dying or anything. And also, isn't that you just call the police, right? You just call the police and the paramedics, and then you deal with it. You don't have to go out there and it's just a counselor. Like, why is a counselor dealing with this anyway? But
Art's like, hey, you need a Band-Aid? Yeah, I'll get you one.
Anyway, it's what I'm trying to say is the squeaky wheel. It's that person. It's that person that's acting out. It's the negative. It's that gets the attention. It's not the guy that wants to do something good with his life or write a good, decent comic book or whatever. And so that's what usually happens. I also learned that with Joe Quesada. Like, if you look at Joe Quesada's body of work, it's next to nothing. Like, I think his longest run on a book was maybe 3 or 4 books in a row. So this guy wasn't exactly putting out product. And so, but what I noticed is he was always jockeying for something. Like, he was always like that squeaky wheel. He was always, getting into places of like, listen to me, influence, all these things. And then I started going, when I was watching all this, I was like, but he's not making any money. I'm making way more money than he is. But in the long run, he was building influence, right? Mm-hmm. He was kind of getting himself up into a position where he
making those inroads.
Right. Yeah. Talk to those people and do all that stuff. But I just wanted to be a good artist. You know what I mean? I just wanted to be in the trenches guy that put out work. But then I realized, well, that's not what his agenda was. His agenda was to do as little as possible and make as much as he could, or get himself.
He was the Fauci of Marvel Comics. He was the guy who became an artist, but only did enough to become an executive.
Get himself in the door so that he could like social climb.
Didn't apply the craft anywhere near as much as anybody else.
There's guys in comics
position of power and presenting himself as a great.
Yep, there's guys in comics that their entire career is bent or made off of bullshitting with editors behind the scenes and not actually doing the work, like talking to editors at comic conventions, going out, seeing them in New York, seeing them in California, bullshitting with them, and that gets their career going, as opposed to actually like selling comics or doing the work, being good artists, being good writers.
The artist.
But here's the thing.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Todd.
The artist that could make the most money any given day, if he said, "Yeah, I'll do 5-6 issues on something," he would make more money than any other artist in the business. Has done the less work than any other artist who's worked in the business for even 4 or 5 years. Is Travis Charette.
Yeah,
and Art Adams.
Yeah. Well, Art
he's got a lot.
Art does a lot of
working a little bit harder the last decade. You see a little bit more stuff, but like you see more stuff from Art than you see from Travis.
Well, when I was working with Art, with Art, he's like, "Yeah, I can do 2 pages a day." And then I just remember, because I was a smart ass kid, I was like, "Well, why don't you?"
Yeah,
because he didn't have to.
I call bullshit on Art being able to draw 2 pages a day.
Well, that's what he said at the time when we were working on Fantastic
Four. He was probably still young and hungry. And then
but
Travis,
do 1 page a day, he could still keep a monthly schedule, and whatever he was making, which was a shit ton then, he could have made way more. But like somebody just said, like in artwork sales alone, he would make his year's kitty.
Some of those original art commissions, like some of those super detailed original art commissions that Art Adams does, that Fantastic 401 that was like double size with a bazillion characters. I can't even imagine how much money he's getting for those, because those are high-end collectors paying for those. Yeah, I mean that's tens of thousands of dollars commission, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah,
for just one piece.
Yeah, I love his when he reenacts like an old
and like gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, it's so freaking good, man.
Dude, when they did remember they did X-Men Classic?
I will never bad talk him. Travis changed his style though, and it pisses me off.
I was just gonna say I'm not a big fan of Travis anymore because he changed his style. I liked his style when he first broke in.
I think his style when he was doing Wildcats
was
like that's when he was It was perfect.
Like
Well,
early
and then
Wildcats.
he
His
went
like,
Wildcats X-Men crossover is, to me, one
Yeah.
of the most beautifully drawn books of all time.
Agree.
And I
Yeah.
mean, the little bit that he did on the Wildcat series was just gorgeous. But that, like, I don't know. I've talked. I mean, you know him, Art. Like, I've asked every artist that I could at conventions, like, what was Travis's deal? Like, why did he not draw more?
The only thing
I think
can
he's
think
like
of is
Joe Mad.
I remember when I was working with Will Spertaccio, and so he was horrible with deadlines, you know. But we still managed to get things done. But if you look at like usually like an X Factor and Uncanny, like the first half of the book would be in like 6 panels. There'd be a lot of detail and stuff. But then as it started going from the second half to the end, there'd be like 2 panels, 3 panels, like one splash. You know, like he would just kind of edit down to make the deadline. And I remember we were just hanging out, we were working together, and I asked him, it's like, you can get things done. Like, why don't you get things done faster? I said it in a nicer way, but and then he was like, I get bored. And then
Yeah.
he said, I think it comes too easy. That's what he said. And then I started thinking, like, there are guys that are working on that level, right? I don't think he's bragging or anything. I just think sincerely it was so easy for him. It wasn't a challenge. And I think maybe Travis is the same way, where it's just so easy for him. Like, we can't comprehend it because it's so great. But for him, it's not really a challenge. It's just kind of like, well, I'll just do this. He just throws something out there, and it's better than 50%, 60% of the industry can do.
Even though his style changed.
My one theory with his style change now is he's really been away from it. I mean, Travis has drawn a handful of pages in the last decade. Like, he has not done much. I think he might have just lost it.
I think
I
also
think he lost interest.
Yeah. He's working with Mark Millar, just so you guys know.
Yeah,
something coming out.
Yeah, but Mark's
think
Mark's got the kind of money where he's going after names, and I think he's going to get the Travis of now, and he's hoping that he got the Travis of 20 years ago.
Money isn't what motivates Travis. I'll tell you.
No, I don't think so. I think Travis is well off, isn't he?
Yeah. I think Travis's main thing is that he was kind of, I think he was born in the wrong time. Like, he's not a comic book artist. He's not a storyteller. He's an illustrator.
Yeah,
like,
he's a compositionalist.
His passion is like comic book storytelling. I think if he was born in the 60s, 70s, where he could do like movie poster art or album covers and things like that, I think he would have been in his arena.
That's probably what he should have always been doing.
He would have been more like Drew Struzan.
Yeah.
He would have definitely been right up there with Drew Struzan and the best, illustrators of that time. But I just think, like, now that doesn't exist. There's no real arena for illustrators to make any money. So really the only place you can is in comic books. You know what I mean? So that's why he does comic books. But if you look at a lot of his stuff, it's more illustrative than it is storytelling.
He's got almost like some of the stuff is almost like a Norman Rockwell aspect to it. Just like the facial reactions, the lighting, the mood. Like, he did some of the, what was it? It was like almost like a Fast Times in Ridgemont High kind of spoof pinup for something. And it was just so gorgeous, but it was like a Norman Rockwell painting.
Yeah,
he is very adaptable. By the way, you can't take that away from him, because you look at Space Girl, which is something he does.
In Metabarons.
Yeah.
Well, see, Metabarons and Space Girl, two different animals. There's a lot of tonal work.
Yeah.
In Metabarons, but in Space Girl, it's Crowquill. Or pins or whatever.
Oh yeah, he's got all the nice line work in the Space Girl stuff.
I'll tell you guys.
When I study someone like him, I go, this guy's a tonal expert. He can pull it off with tones better than anybody else in the business. But he also has the ability to dumb down his style and either do very beautiful pages, like you've seen some of those Captain America pages that story got crushed or whatever, and you see the Space Girl stuff, which is really like it has a
it's
sort of
looser
quality
creature,
that makes
gritty, but
right,
it still
like a
it still
Sienkiewicz.
maintains that
Yeah,
It has a very European feel to it.
right.
Yeah, I'll
But,
tell you,
and that
my
Space
favorite
Girl
stuff is his Space Girl. The Space Girl stuff is the best stuff I've seen him do.
Yeah, the Space Girl stuff I think is him actually taking a step back towards comics.
Well,
I
the
think,
Space
because
Girl
I think
stuff is, I would say, the Space Girl stuff is the fastest stuff he does.
Yeah,
like I think
because
that's
the
him,
Metabarons,
him letting himself just be loose, because he's put out
the
quite a bit of
Metabarons.
that.
Yeah, the Metabaron stuff was when his style changed, where I was like, I don't really. I mean, I recognize how awesome it is, but I just don't like the feel of it because I like his comic book style better.
He didn't have that pen line work in there. It was that more rendered.
Exactly.
He did all that rendering. He did it with colors instead of that hard.
So,
pen
like I said, I do think he's adaptable. There's those three pages. Those 3 pages he did of Tony Stark in sort of Stark Mansion or whatever.
Oh
it was.
yeah, that Avengers
story. So he has the ability to go wherever he wants to go. He's that good.
Oh yeah,
I just think honestly,
his talent is not in question. But we were just talking about, like you said, you brought up that just guys that could make a fortune if they could actually be disciplined and make a monthly schedule. Because whatever he's making now, he could quadruple it, in a year.
Easily.
If he just had more.
And Wills is the same way. But like interesting that you talk about Wills like that because
but Wilson today made money. He invested money.
Well, they asked him, like, I can't remember the guy's name, but he actually asked him at a convention. He's like, why don't you do, like, like obviously you could knock this stuff out. Why don't you do more page work? Why don't you do more stories like that? He said, man, I could just come to conventions like this and draw the cool stuff and make
not
just
any
as much.
Taxes.
Yeah, and make just as much. So that tells you one of the big problems is they don't want to pay someone on his level what he's worth.
Well, that's
exactly. You're exactly right.
None of these guys are getting paid at Marvel or DC right now.
Right.
Yeah.
The page rate. If you listen to Neil Adams in those podcasts, Fat Man on Batman, I think it's called, he tells you on this day, this page rate started for me and about 10 other guys. It was $600 a page.
And that's probably
not close to that ever.
That's
like Jim Lee might get that.
Yeah.
Jim Lee left Marvel he said $250 a page to do X-Men. He left Marvel getting $250 a page.
Well, when I was working with Jim, it was never about the page rate. It was about the back end. It was about the incentives. Because I remember talking with Jim, it's like, we're not getting paid that much per page. He goes, Art, wait till the royalties start coming.
Royalties.
Sylvester made a ton of money in royalties.
And then later on, selling the original art. It wasn't early on. It wasn't selling the original art, but that market went way up. And now that's what it's all about. It's about royalties, and it's about selling the original art. Like,
but go ahead.
If you're a top artist, you're picking a Batman book, you're picking a Spider-Man book, you're picking a book that is you're going to be able to sell the original art, and you're going to get royalties. Because Marvel and DC's top rates, even for the top guys, it is garbage for the top artists.
Right, but I was just thinking, like, looking back, and even at the time, I didn't fully agree with Jim when he said, we're not working for the page rate, because let's just hypothetically, let's just say like Jim and I actually did hold out for more money, like per page, and then it got out that the high bar was raising and that people were getting paid more per page. Then what that does is it has ripple effects in the industry. So you can't change everybody's dynamics by that page rate holdout. The royalties are one thing, but the page rate is what you're stuck with if you're not working on a good selling book or if you're not the flavor of the month. So that's what everybody is pretty much working for. So it was kind of, not that I want to be this, like that guy that's like the Norma Ray that goes in there and like starts trouble and says, we should be paid more, blah, blah, blah. But if you think about it, there could have been some changes that were made early on, because what was Marvel going to do?
Yeah.
You know,
And it's the
Are they
it's
not
the
going to
whole
give it to us.
it's the whole structure of the way the industry is for artists. Like you'll always get like the people online or the internet are like, oh, you should form a union. Well, that'll never happen. It'll never ever happen. But what Art is talking about is people wouldn't even talk about their page rates because they thought it would affect their own page rate. So it was always super secretive. People like artists would be like worried if they told somebody else what they were getting, it would like poorly affect them. But in reality, it probably would have helped out the industry wide. But because for whatever reason, if editors were putting pressure on them or they were worried about if somebody found out what they were getting, it would adversely affect them. Like people did not talk about what their page rate was.
Yeah, because you didn't want somebody to go, you know, I found out what Art's getting paid.
Exactly.
$50 more than I am. I want what Art's getting paid.
Yeah. So then that editor is going to come back at you and like that editor is going to yell at you and be like, why the hell did you tell them how much you were making?
Right. I fought for you to get that rate, and now you're just blabbing it out to everybody.
And editors use that as a cudgel on artists. Like they editors' jobs was to keep those page rates down as much as they could. That was part of their job.
Well, the other thing too is and this is like, I'm reminded of a story about Vince McMahon. This guy asked his son, what was the most important piece of advice your dad ever gave you? And he said, don't ever let your talent know how important they are to your business.
Exactly.
Marvel is kind of does the same thing with the whole thing of treating their employees as contractors. So because that keeps them on the bubble. You know what I mean? It's like you have a limited contract with a negotiated deal, and if you rock the boat too much you're gone.
Oh,
you know? Meanwhile, these guys security. Are crucial to your business. You know what I mean? That's why right now Marvel, they've got all these guys from Brazil working for pennies.
They got Tumblr.
If they didn't have those
the
people,
US guys are working for pennies. There's no page rates out there.
If they don't have those people, they have nothing.
But the thing is, like you know, the whole image thing with Marvel and about profit sharing, things like that. So then, Image goes and pretty much proves their point that this is what we are worth. You know what I mean? Because the industry actually paid that. The books were selling millions of copies, all that. But at the same time, Marvel proved their point too, because their sales did go down, in the short term, but they ended up bringing them back up because, there was a bunch of guys like Joe Mad and then JR kind of stepped up and
the Kubert,
the Kubert brothers came in
it,
and basically took the place of Silvestri and Lee. You know what I mean? So they did, and they were still rivals and they still competed. So the thing is that most people don't realize is there can be two things that are right at the same time.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily contradict each other. So both were basically right. But Marvel being a corporation, they always have to side with the IP. So back on the lawsuit. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Art. Everything you're talking about now is still from 10 years ago. Here's a little test for everybody. Name the top 5 comic book artists at Marvel and DC right now.
I can do it.
Really.
I can do it.
The top 5 artists.
Yeah.
Hottest artists.
Marco Cicchetto.
Who?
Marco Cicchetto.
Never heard of him.
I've never heard of him before.
Jerome Opina.
Never heard of him.
I've heard of him, but
Carmen Canero.
No.
I'd see. So if you haven't heard of him, then you're not really paying attention.
I would say Jorge Jimenez.
He's at DC. He's at DC.
I said Marvel and DC.
We're saying Marvel and DC.
Okay, I would put him in there.
I would say Jorge Jimenez.
They poured him around like crazy.
I would say Victor Bogdanovich. That dude is awesome.
Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's the guy that looks like Capullo.
Right? Yeah, but he's awesome.
No, he's
I love
good.
his shit.
He's good.
Rafa Sandoval.
I hate that guy.
You hate that guy?
Victor. I inked his first work on Batman when he broke in.
He seems like an interesting character. He might be difficult.
That dude is an ego out of control.
Is he?
I-
No
I-
shit.
I
That
see
dude
his
is
Twitter.
I didn't
full of
wanna know that.
himself to the nth degree, man.
I've
Really?
seen his Twitter.
That
He
sucks.
gives
Can't have a
zero
conversation
fucks.
with that dude. Yeah.
That dude gives zero fucks because he talks shit online.
I've noticed that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I guess now you mention that. I like his
Who's your
stuff,
fifth guy,
but yeah,
Todd?
But he is
Sean
good.
Gordon Murphy.
Sean
Sean
Gordon.
Gordon Murphy would be
see,
top
no
five.
Brett Booth?
I would say my 5 top guys. Brett comes and goes. So
Brett's
Yeah.
at
My
Spawn.
top guys,
He's
I would
on
say,
Spawn.
would
He's
be,
not Marvel or DC right now, so
Yeah, I
wouldn't
guess I
I
count
would
Brett.
say Sean,
I would say Brett if he was working on a Marvel or DC book, but he's
okay,
at Spawn.
guys that you didn't put in there. I would say Sean Gordon Murphy, Stegman.
Yeah,
Ryan
Stegman's
Stegman.
kind of all over Marvel, isn't he?
Yeah.
But
I
is
guess
he
I
like
didn't
a
realize he was
super
still
hot
doing stuff.
artist, or is he just a guy that Marvel uses for everything?
No, he's well liked.
Okay.
Very
Yeah.
popular.
I
Book sells.
think that question is kind of moot.
Subjective?
There's a lot of talented people in the industry right now.
There's a lot of talented
But-
people, but there's not a lot of supersters anymore.
There's
You
no.
should look up the
superstars.
names. You should look up my names that I mentioned.
Hold on, Clint.
Jerome
Hold on.
Opina.
Hang on.
Let me
Okay,
make my
Todd.
point.
If they were superstars, we wouldn't have to look them up.
Hold
No,
on.
no, they are superstars.
Let our
Don't-
talk.
don't-
Let our talk.
No, go ahead, Art.
The
Superstar
point I was
quality.
trying to
I would, but
make is that we could all find all these talents, right? But the thing is, there are no good books being
Yeah.
produced. There's
a
good
good point.
artists, but there's no good stories. There's no epic storylines. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's interesting.
That's
So
the truth.
You're getting a lot of good talent, and you're wasting the talent on really crappy stories.
True.
Identity politics,
Yeah.
SJW shit, all of this stuff. And that's, I think, the bigger crime, because there is talent out there. They are also, like you said, Clint, I mean, they're bargain shopping, they're going Tumblr art, and they're doing all that stuff at the same time. But I think they have to, because these books aren't selling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
well, what's happening? There are a handful of good books out there. They're just not getting pushed because they're not part of
Agenda.
the big narrative.
yeah.
Like Daredevil. Daredevil has been really great. Unfortunately, there isn't a
Bob.
superstar artist on the book.
Hey, Boobs, thanks for
Yeah.
shitting on my point. I appreciate it.
No, it's like you're right for the vast majority. It's like to find those good books that I'm talking about, you got to wade through a mountain of shit.
Yeah, I'm making a generalization. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always something good that's happening, in any art form. But the shit sometimes can override anything good that's coming out.
It's
Yeah,
a
there's nothing
deluge.
that's exciting me at the big two right now, and hasn't for a while. There's been
Yeah,
some
that-
artists
that's
that'll
kind of
buy
the feeling
books,
I've had.
but book wise, story wise, character, what they're doing with characters hasn't excited me for years. Years.
I'll turn you on to 3 books, right? Turn you on to 3 books that you just go try. You can try them wherever you want. You don't have to buy them. If
We had a
that's
200.
Nightwing, Brian Redondo. That's
That has been
excellent.
pretty good.
Black Monday Murders is about to come back. That is a master class in comics as far as like styling and stuff like that. It's Tom Coker. The colorist colors the different villains in their own hues and stuff like that. Really, really freaking cool. And the other one would be it's what's his name? Dan Mora's book. Once a King? No, it's Once in Future. Once in Future
Yeah.
was really, really
Okay.
good. It gets a little the pacing of it currently is a little slow, but the beginning of it was really, really fast paced. That's Kieran Gillian and Dan Mora. Really good.
See, that's back to the thing though about like the subjective aspect of comics. Like what one person might consider good, another person is going to consider trash based on whatever. They don't like the story, they don't like the art, they don't like the characters. One might be not enough superhero book, one might be too superhero, kind of thing. That's one of the, I think, the good things about comics, because there is so much stuff out there for everyone. When it comes to me, I got very particular taste in artists I like and comics I like. So I try not to shit too much on just in general, the stuff I don't like just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not good. It just means I don't like it. That's all, you know. So it's very hard for me to get sucked into anything new because a lot of what the industry is putting out right now, specifically stylized wise, when it comes to the art, is not what I want to see out of comic books. And if that's not pulling me in, then I'm not checking stuff out. You know, like that's the hard part for me. So I mean, if you throw me, you know, Mark Silvestri on something, I'm gonna buy it no matter what it is. It could be
just because it's Mark.
Because it's Mark, exactly. Because it's a superstar name. It's an art that's very appealing to me. That kind of thing.
Anybody have any confidence that we'll ever see Mark Silvestri's Batman?
God, I hope so, man. But
that's one of the. We should do like a top 10 list of like projects that we all know about that were like rumored and that you've seen art for, but that they've been sitting around for a decade and you haven't seen.
We will get Mark Silvestri's Batman in the same form that we got John Byrne's continuation on X-Men.
Oh, there you go. I'll still take it. I'll still take it.
He'll put it up on a friggin' website, and we'll all be going, "Why the hell did you do this?" And the answer will be, "Well, it just wasn't what we were looking for at the time." That's what will get it in.
Well, Bob, I want to ask one question. Okay, so why did Burns thing? Why didn't that happen? And then how was he able to put it out? He does not own the X-Men. How is he?
He's not selling it. He's posting it. It's like I'll let Bob. Sorry.
It's like fan fiction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how he's able.
Basically, he's going.
No profit.
This is the way I would have done it, and you guys can do whatever you want with it. I'm not like if Marvel wants it. Like Marvel wants it, they can call me. This is for you guys to look at.
We can all do what John's doing.
He's not charging for it, so he just
What has happened though is that people have downloaded because it's all in high res. They've downloaded it, collected it, and they've made bound copies of it. Someone did
like good guys are coloring it, and
see, I haven't seen any of it colored yet. That's cool.
Well, what happened was somebody actually took like the master books like the Jim Lee X-Men. They put together a book like that of it at that size.
Oh, really?
And actually gave it to Rob Liefeld as a gift. Yeah. So Rob Liefeld's got like a giant artist edition.
Well, anybody who knows anybody has put those things together.
Get in my way. Yeah.
Could really use
call Rob. Rob will tell you the guy that put it together for him. You can contact him.
You're gonna see editions of that at conventions all over the place, and they'll be selling for good money, I'm guessing.
How can they get away with selling that though?
Because it's a comic book convention until they get busted. Okay. It's illegal. Totally illegal.
Same way that they sell prints, because technically prints are illegal.
Yeah, true. Good point.
I remember Rob selling his own versions, ash cans of his Captain America before Marvel published it. He was just selling them right at the table and signing them. It was like $25 a pop. And
he's basically like, "Screw you, Marvel. I'm gonna make some money this anyway.
This is my cut."
Well, at the time, those guys were really writing their own ticket, and Marvel needed them so they could get away with murder.
I have a question.
Yes,
a legit question, because I know you've inked him. I know he sent you little copies of his pages that are this big, and you've inked them. So, if he had sent you that Captain Marvel cover with the giant breasts, let's just call them that, would you have corrected them?
Oh my gosh!
Putting art on the spot.
Good question.
No, it's a great question. Since we were in proximity at the time, we worked out of the same studio and hung out. I probably would have asked him if I could, or I would have done two versions. I would have done
let the editor decide.
One with the boobs and one without the boobs. Yeah,
one that makes it to Marvel, and one that just I left that one over here.
What it kind of is it's a head positioning problem, like just anatomy. That drawing is always kind of like, why and how did it happen? I don't think Rob understood. If you kind of if you move the head back, like the spine is connected to the back of the head, so if you're going to do a heroic pose, you pull the shoulders back and the head back, right? And so everything lines up from the back out. I think he didn't move. He just kept building this out to get that
Right.
effect. You know what I mean? Like he kept building the front out instead of just kind of maybe moving the head back.
Have you ever, okay, second question, have you ever had to correct something so egregious that you just did it without even
Oh,
talking
that's an even better question.
You want to? Oh, Art. You want to see a really cool article?
Yes.
It involves you.
Because I don't want to answer this question.
I know, like, don't interrupt, Bob.
No. Answer the
Come
question
on.
first.
We got Art right over the hot flames right now, Bob.
Yeah,
We don't
but
want to interrupt.
Sometimes
Oh, no. Answer the question first, and then I'll put this up.
I was to say sometimes that's what an inker is supposed to do. Is
Yeah, I
correct
mean, there are
certain
jobs,
things.
you know, where you're kind of hired in. Like when I got hired to do Ultimate Spider-Man, Bob Harris was my editor, and Bob, this is literally what he said. He said, "I need a heavy-handed inker, and I want you to bury Mark Bagley," because he knew like I could stylize the hell out of the book, and I could actually make it look cooler than Bagley's superficial look. I'm not taking it. Bagley's a great storyteller.
Workhorse.
His anatomy,
Super
all
solid,
that
but he had a generic look.
right,
But he was a great storyteller and fast as hell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just didn't have the pizzazz. So he was
Exactly.
asking me to go do that. And so there was one thing notoriously that Bagley did is there was a walleye thing. He always made
Yeah.
it was
His
always
eyes.
I think it was the left eye. It was always the same eye that would kind of slightly go off to the side. So when you get stuck with when you get hit with those things, it's easy correct because it's an inside the line, outside of the line inking thing. So if anybody knows what I'm talking about or don't know what I'm talking about, I'll explain. So you have a line. This is an eyeball, right? So if you want to move this circle over like this way, you just kind of ink on that one side, and then you can kind of move it over with the line weights. You can move it over slightly. I mean, if it's really, really bad, you can't change it that way. But his wasn't. So it's like if you just ink on the other side of the line, all of a sudden you move that eyeball over. So sometimes like hands, anatomy, things like that are easily fixed with just an inside outline, you know, outside of the line kind of way of working on it. But
I always wondered why Mary Jane was looking at fucking Aunt May and Peter at the same time, and they were on other sides of the panel. Like now, it's all
there, man. But yeah, I can't think of anything, Todd, that was really like that. I just had to redraw. Like it was just so bad. I was asked to redraw. It's that really famous Jim Lee. It's Psylocke coming out of the water. She's got her hands.
That's right. You're talking about that.
oh yeah.
Everything. And
Love that
Jim
character.
asked me to redraw that because he said the arms were a little thick and the hips were a little too big. So I did, and then we were
Blasphemy.
faxing, and then I faxed it and got okay, and then I finished it up. But that's probably the most, and that was, you know, above board. I was asked to do.
Give me that dumper.
Psylocke coming out of the water.
Where's Psylocke?
Best scene
Psylocke
ever.
coming out of the water. He's so amazing.
I didn't sound like Homer enough there.
All right. Show this article, man. I stumbled on this and I thought it was just cool as hell. A forgotten X-Men 90s villain was almost the key to several mysteries. Many of the X-Men are bound together by their mysteries, which have a tendency to catch up with them at the most inopportune times. The various X-Men's mysterious origins have slowly been chipped away over the years, but the forgotten 90 villain Hazard was almost the key to unraveling the origins of several major Marvel mutants. First debuting in 1992's X-Men number 12, Carter Reiking was created by Fabian Niciez and Art Tiber.
Woohoo! Sweet. Let's do something with Hazard. I need some royalties.
There you go.
He needs to
Spider was
be
a
like
famous.
he needs to
I
be
just-
a major
yeah, like, I'll
part
drop the
of
link.
Marvel Phase 4.
I really
I'll
dug
drop
that
the link to
two-parter.
this.
Like that was good.
Yeah, I'll drop.
That was good.
Yeah,
good
I
run.
thought it was good.
I dug it.
I'll drop the link to that so you guys can read it. I just like this. Just like it just came into my feed, and I was like, I know that guy. So I just thought it was cool. It was like, hey man, look at that. You made important contributions to the comic book industry, man.
Absolutely.
What was his real name?
Carter, right?
His real name was Carter Reiking.
Yeah, Carteret.
Did they ever use that character? Has it ever been
They
used?
never
again?
used him again.
Okay, I didn't
they
think
never
so.
used them after that. I got asked by licensing to do a trading card, so there is a hazard trading card that
Okay.
exists. But other than that, they
Ultra
never
rare.
You know what's weird about this, Bob? My wife and I were walking the pooch. I was told not to say it. Walking the dog just before the show, and Pamela was talking about like whatever happened to that character Hazard.
Oh wait, no, he did reappear. They just mentioned it here
Whoa.
during that time period when like when Wanda did No More Mutants, the M Day. Xavier, I think he got shot in the head or something. He lost his memory, so he goes to Hazard. Hazard helps him get his memory back.
Really?
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Nice.
but he was depowered. He wasn't Hazard anymore.
What was he?
He just
Carter, right?
called himself by his normal name.
Huh.
So
And
how
then,
did
I
he
think
get? How did he get Xavier to get his?
I
Still
don't
have to
know.
go get the
He
back
let
issues.
Xavier. Because Xavier still had his telepathic powers. He let him go into his mind and because they were childhood friends.
Oh,
So he let him go into his mind and help him, and then he dies after that. So they killed him off. So
No.
no royalties for you. No royalties for you, Art.
Hazard.
I can always bring him back.
that was on purpose.
No.
There's that guy was still there then. What's his name there? The guy you don't like.
Oh,
I
yeah.
won't say his name.
David Bogart, yeah, and CB. Yeah.
I'm gonna get
But,
Art.
I'll see it.
It's a cool little trip down memory lane to read that article.
Oh.
So
Look at those kids
you guys
running.
want to see? You gotta
They're
see what
extremely happy.
some of Art's art looked like back then, and some of the stuff that he worked on. Man, go check
Oh,
that article out.
that's too much fun, and actually it
Oh.
ties into what we're talking about, just like ownership and royalties and
Yeah.
and things like that. So the way this contract was structured though, is like so that House of M, is that what you're talking about? Like that they
Yeah,
use,
House of M.
M.
Yeah.
they use them in House of M, but the thing is, I think the only way you get royalties is like if he's on the title, like if it was Hazard and it was his book, like I think they have to be like the main focus of the book. So people can use them in their stories, but you don't get residuals or you don't get incentives. I think if they were like to try to make like a Hazard comic book, or it was like, the Hazard Adventures or whatever it was, or a movie or something like that, I think then you get your ownership and you get your royalties.
Art. So when you did the issues of X-Men, you were penciling and inking yourself, I'm assuming, because that looks.
Yes.
You didn't bring in another inker. Can I ask you what your rates were back then for you doing both?
Oh, the rates were crap. It was probably like 120 or 150 a page
For pencils or for not?
for inks, and then pencils were probably closer on the 200 level.
Okay.
200 a page.
Wow.
So you're drawing the number one X-Men book and maybe making $320 a page for penciling and inking.
Right.
And that was probably like one of the top rates.
Yeah. But just if you want, don't ask me. If you want, don't ask me. That sounds weird.
Look at that.
Don't
There
ask
you
me
go.
what the royalties were per page.
There we go.
Look at that awesome '90s artwork, man.
I've got
some
that
of
in
my
one
favorite,
of my long
man.
boxes behind me
That's
somewhere.
look at that cross hatching, man. That's beautiful stuff.
In the era where they were still selling about
Yes.
300,000 a copy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Easily.
Shame.
like that book probably sold 300,000 easy.
What a shame.
300,000. Oh no, more than
No?
Hey, Art.
Yeah.
you
More
got a
than
little,
that. More than that. Yeah.
When I
yeah.
went to Marvel, when I went back to Marvel after Image Comics, that's what X-Men was selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But and look at that, and at $1.25, man.
Yeah, that's making money the hard way. $1.25. Yeah.
But using that zipatone on that jacket there,
Yeah, and on Hazard's
Yeah.
stomach.
on his
Yeah.
abdomen there, cutting a few corners there, Art.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Still sweet.
It still was a shit ton of work, man.
I'll bet. But there you go, guys.
Love
I just thought it was really cool that popped into my feed. I was like, I gotta show
That's
this
cool.
Art.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
maybe I'll do a show tomorrow. I'll like get into the article. Thanks, Bob.
Do you have any original art from that era?
I think I have a handful of pages from that Hazard 2-part story. I have, I think, one Wills page left, and I don't have anything else. I believe
You don't have
that's
any
all.
of your own penciled pages and inked, and no?
Well, yeah, just a handful of those. Yeah, from 12
Yeah.
and 13.
Oh,
Any of the
you
type
got to
stuff
bring
you
those
did?
out on a show sometime, Art, and just go over them
Yeah,
so we
man.
can just look at the original pages. That'd be fun. That'd
History
be
of
super
RT
fun.
Bear, man.
You're, and I've told you this before. You're hands above a better artist today than you were then, because there was a lot of things you were trying to do then.
Yeah.
But the person you are as an artist, the foundations and everything are more solid, way better. Your angles and your choices, so much better than that then.
But it's
you
so
were-
fun to
like it
look
though,
at the
man.
old
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It's always fun.
I love the energy in it, you know?
Yeah, there was crazy enthusiasm at the time. You know, there was a lot of just stuff going on that was exciting. And also the thing is, back then there was no time. Like, you just had to get things done. So
Yeah.
you were making like creative decisions, like, I don't know, a million of them a day.
Just getting ground down.
Yeah, there was a ton of things that was happening. So you were just kind of boom, boom, boom. You were just banging it out.
How much time should we put into designing Hazard? I don't know. Just draw them.
Right, exactly. That's what it was. It was just like,
Art's like looking for like milk carton. Oh, put that on his arm. Coffee pot, helmet.
Were you getting any ink assists from any of your studio mates? Like, it looks a little bit like Mark Pacella's in there a little bit.
well, what the first one is pretty much all me, 12, but 13 there was just deadline crunch. And so I always ran a studio. So Hack Shack Studios existed. So I always had an ink assistant. At the time, I had I had Trevor Scott, who was Wildstorm's first hire for inks, and then there was Danny Mickey. And so those guys, we all lived in the same area. So those guys kind of came over. We just kind of worked late night sometimes. After they were done with their work, they would come in. And then actually, Bill Ray of Ren and Stimpy fame, he actually came in and threw some lines down on that issue 13.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He just came over one night. That's how it was, like stuff like we're doing right now, where we just hang out, you know, and stuff like that. So it was just, if we were all in the same room and we were drawing, stuff like that would happen. And so I don't know why, but he came by the town home. Pamela was already asleep. So we were like working until it was going to get done, right? We were just going to work till the sun came up. And so I don't know how, but Bill Ray just shows up the door. And then it's just like everybody that could hold a pencil was working. And so I had the main studio upstairs. And so we had so many people just kind of hanging out that then the downstairs kitchen table became like, more drawing.
He comes over with a 6-pack. He's like, "Hey guys," Art's like grabs my shirt. He's like, "Grab a pen."
Get over here. Yeah.
That's so cool, though.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's like,
But that's
I
what we
love
do.
stories like
jam
that.
sessions like that with guys.
Yeah, we did that. We did that a lot for like Wills and Jim at the time too, to help out Scott. So I believe like Trevor, you know that double page, that X-Men double page where there's it's the double size
Colossus
the gatefold. Yeah, with
Colossus and Jean and Storm.
But they had like that double page with the spaceships, and like the two X-Men characters are out in space with the space.
Oh, Storm.
And Storm and Archangel. Yeah.
Yeah,
issue 3.
I think Trevor those ships. Like those ships are
the Starjammer storyline with the Shi'ar.
Yeah, Starjammers.
Those spaceships.
Shi'ar, yeah.
I freaking love Storm's pose on that double piece.
I love that.
Like,
that's one of my favorite.
That is gorgeous, and those ships look so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Great art.
So we would just kind of help each other out like that, and it was usually me
Forge
and
was on there too.
Hack Shack that helped out Wildstorm.
Forge was in the ship.
Guys roll slower.
So you guys were all working on that page kind of together?
Yeah, I would just kind of jammed on it, and I think I do think Trevor helped out on that page. But we were doing backgrounds for Scott, a lot and things like that. We're just going back and forth. And then there was what was it called, Inker X or something like that. There was like there was some kind of credits that happened every once in a while in those X books. So if you ever see Inker X, it's just a jam. It's just like everybody working on it. I think I did a Kubert issue like that where I did 3 pages, the first 3 pages, and then it just became like Inker du jour.
Nice.
What happened to Trevor? I mean, what's he been doing lately?
I think he's still like working at DC sporadically.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he just did it. I thought he recently did a inks on what was it? The last thing I remember him doing inks on was like Thundercats versus the Justice League or something like that.
Yeah, he
which was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, these odd jobs, and I think it's like the key to success in this industry is getting a good book and then having a good run on that book. And I think Trevor always suffered from, there's no definitive like Trevor Scott run. You know what I mean? There's no definitive, books that you can go, oh, this is where he made his mark on. And just getting back to where like contemporary comics is, that's exactly why they're doing what they're doing. That's why you're never going to really see any long runs from talent anymore, because they just don't want to create superstars.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you guys have any things you would like to add about the topic, which is the copyrights and maybe how this industry treats, some of these really major players that have contributed blood, sweat, and tears?
The one thing I was thinking about this earlier, and I mean, maybe this is why, it kind of falls into with Comicsgate and whatever, is like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the people who became the comic pros were the comic fans. They were like the guys who wrote, like, there's many cases of like a comic pro showing like, oh, I wrote my first fan letter and it's printed in this issue, like the fans like kind of worked their way into becoming comic book pros. And like that was, it wasn't solely that, but there was a lot of that. There was like fan sites, like fanzines before the internet. And like these guys became the people that wrote comics. They wrote about comics. And like that, even still, once the internet showed up, that was still happening in the 70s or in the 80s and 90s, And now it seems like that whole SJW culture cut the head off of that,
killed it.
And it was like, no, we're not letting the fans come up to be pros anymore. Now it's going to be your political Twitter views. It's like your East Coast, West Coast liberal elites are going to align themselves to internet SJWs, and they're not even necessarily comic. Like most of them don't know anything about comics, but they've got a internet following on Twitter, and that's what editors are interested in now. So it's totally cut off the head, and that's what's changed the story writing. Is like the writers from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they knew the history of these characters. And now you're bringing in this total people from left field that could give a shit about these characters. They just see it as like, oh, this is a fun opportunity. I'll go dip my toes in this and see what happens. And like,
it's the editor thing too.
Fan enthusiasm, and I'm fine with it because it's brought them to Comicsgate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the editor. It's multiple things. That's one of the big ones too. But it's also it's the fact that editors aren't editors anymore. They're not the keepers of the characters.
No.
And you got guys like Jim Lee. Like I love Jim Lee as an artist. I think he's amazing. Yes. But as an executive, he made sure that there was never going to be another Jim Lee.
Yeah.
So
sure did. And but how do you guys think about like the royalty, the ownership, or these type of things? I mean, Todd, do you think that Marvel should just pony up the dough to like the Ditko estate, to the Ernie Kalan's family, Don Heck, all these guys? Like, should Marvel, do they have an obligation to take care of these guys?
I'm kind of torn because these people have passed. The people and their families didn't do any of this stuff.
Right.
So I'm kind of torn on like how you do this. Like either you do it and you set a precedent that you do it forever for everyone, right? And that have the similar, that you would put in the similar kind of category, like I said, stages and categories and formulas and stuff.
Right.
But you also fix it at the level we're at now, where whether they're gone or not, you bring back royalties and you set a precedent with them so that they're clear. Because a lot of this is clarity, right? A lot of this is about clarity, because it's all unclear. These suits have come up multiple times, and you've placated with like you said, they name it something, and here's a love bonus for you, whatever you call it. So they've been doing this for years to these creators and their families and stuff. And I think it's time to just get a good clarity and set the record straight, because you can't keep doing it, right? You agree? You can't, you can't be paying Stan Lee's grandson in perpetuity for things that he did.
But why not?
That's what I was going to say.
Why not?
I mean,
I think Marvel would rather pay Stan Lee's grandson than risk losing the copyrights on things they know they can make money off in perpetuity.
Well, for me, like what I was thinking is why wouldn't you want to take care of these people? Like, why wouldn't you acknowledge their
contribution? You're talking about corporate entities, man.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
but they can actually write new contracts moving forward that don't obligate themselves in any way of like ownership or these type of things. I mean, they can settle these things out of court, and they have it in their power to just go here, even if it's a one-time buyout or something like that. They have it in their power to make it right for these families. I mean,
okay, do you make it right for Stan Lee, or do you make it right for Stan Lee's grandson? Do you keep going that route? I mean, I'm sure there's something, right? There's something you could do, but don't you do like stewardships and maybe grants and things like that, like in his name? Wouldn't that be also another way of doing this? Is giving out
if you signed off on it as an individual.
Well, the thing is like Smokey Wraith, he also talked was like if those guys were alive, they would want some kind of inheritance to go to their family.
Well, that's
great
what
point. I was going to say that. Yep, great point.
Yeah. So he makes a good point there. But the question I have is how? I mean, eventually, all of this stuff will become public. Just like everything else.
I look at these things. Okay, like if you're a king or a queen in the past, or you're a Rockefeller or whatever, like your legacy goes into the next generation and so on and so forth. So these are already rich people that are getting richer and richer. Those families are getting more powerful. So what's wrong with giving it to the average Joe son or daughter of a creator?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's wrong with that? Like, I mean, if I'm sure if Todd created something on Spider-Man level, or I did, or any of us that have kids, would want that legacy to be passed on.
Okay, but how far does it go? Does it go
until public domain?
There are laws that do exist. Is it 3 generations? Like there are laws
until public domain.
Yeah,
I would say until public domain.
Yeah,
I would agree with. Yeah,
but they keep pushing public domain. You know that Disney's been behind this law for years. Been pushing that goalpost further and further, and then they start writing new laws that say, "Hey, if you do another version, like the live action version of such and such, then that kicks that. You're back to year one again." That's a lot of what this is going on. So I think it becomes sort of.
Well, I think if a company is making a lot of money off of a character that was created by a certain person, I think that it's not a big stretch for them to kick back to that person and that person's family down the line. I don't think it's like that big of a deal, honestly. I think the money these characters are bringing into these companies over generations,
draconic amounts.
I think we're overestimating the goodwill of corporate America, though.
I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm just saying,
it's not going to happen. They should do it. If they were smart, that would be the easiest solution.
Yeah,
because then you wouldn't get people suing 20, 30 years later, 40, 50 years later.
But you can't forget someone like a legacy character, say like Daredevil, right? Mediocre character when he comes out, but somewhere along the way, whoa, he becomes iconic. Do you give it to the creator or the person that made him iconic? It becomes a different sort of story.
Well, then that's that individual to take it upon and sue that way. But it's like with this lawsuit, like with Ditko specifically, it's the origin of Spider-Man and the origin.
It's the elements surrounding it too.
That one's clear cut. Ditko's got the best clear cut.
Like and Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to stake claim to the legacy of these two characters. They're kind of just those incarnations, that version of those characters. And the thing is, if they were to get the rights back, I don't think that's what they want anyway, because what are they going to do with the characters? The best place for the characters is where they're at right now.
Oh, yeah.
I just think they want financial compensation.
Oh, absolutely.
For that. And
Okay, can I bring it up to a different level, right?
Sure.
What if, like, on the licensing and all the things that you see is never Steve Ditko's artwork? It's always Art T. Bear and Jim Lee's and this and that, because you've created these iconic images now associated with that character. Now, are you giving a percentage of those things to that?
It's the creators.
Those are all just adaptions of the original creation.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the original creation.
I know, but that artists have been fighting for the use of their images for a while now.
I don't think that's ever going to happen, because even Michael Jackson was like trying to set some kind of legal high bar that you couldn't use his image unless you paid him, and you just can't copyright those things. And then also there still is the work for hire contract that a lot of people are working under. Oh, go ahead.
Wombat makes a really good point too. He says, "What about Ditko's witches?" Because I think the family should get paid, because I'm always going to side with the creators and their family. But he's right. Yeah. Ditko never wanted it. Ditko himself never pursued it. And Ditko
but here's the thing:
he only died 3 years ago.
Here's the thing: legally, it doesn't matter if Ditko didn't want it, because his estate went to his brother.
I understand
that's what I was going to say.
That's the will. So if his brother wants it and he owns the estate,
exactly,
it's entirely up to the brother.
I understand that, and me personally, I would go with that. But a lot of people are trying to bring a moral thing into this, and if the creator said, "I don't care,"
that's where you get to a judge deciding this thing.
If he said that,
lawyers and a judge. I mean, I would say Ditko's brother's got a good legal standing to at least get a settlement out of this.
What if you go back to the signed contract? What is this? The last signed contract by Ditko say?
Well, but the thing is, it doesn't matter about the contract, because now we're talking about the length of copyright. Like they're doing this in this window, this time frame right now, because
they're allowed to do
either the trademark or the copyright is 56 years or something. So like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange right now are specifically up for grabs because of the length of time from the original creation and the copyright law.
Because
it's a legal thing. It's going to come down to the lawyers.
Yeah, if Marvel doesn't do anything, then the family will get it regardless. That's how the law would work. So Marvel,
that's why Marvel has countersued.
Yeah, countersued
them to just hold on to the character. What I would like to see is when the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe started, they placated the fan base, and I think it's all because of J.K. Rowling. And you can whatever you want to think about Harry Potter, whatever, but there was a fan base that was respected. Like J.K., she oversaw everything. She wanted it a certain way, and she was all about the readers, the fans of this IP. And so then I think Hollywood started seeing like dollar signs. They started seeing that working, right? And so that's the first time I ever saw like a franchise get that kind of respect, right?
Yeah.
And so then when the Marvel Universe started, they knew they wanted to create a universe. And they knew that a great way to market it and sell it was to get fans on board, get the Marvel zombies in there, get comic book fans in there. So what do? They created this brain trust, which everybody knew was just to placate the fan base. So you have Tom Brevoort, you have Quesada, you have Bendis, you have Mark Miller, you have those guys in there. And so then, they do a little bit of FaceTime. The comics industry is like, oh my gosh, look at they have something to say about this, blah, blah, blah. Hollywood never cared about them to begin with. It was all just PR. And then the comic books spin in the pages. Here's the comic books. We're paying homage to the comic books, right? It was all designed to get all of us involved and to sign off on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? So over the years, it seems like the Marvel, Disney, Marvel, all this stuff has done everything they could to separate themselves from the comic books. Like the comic books isn't shit. It's us. It's us. It's us. It's us. And so now it seems like what they're doing is it's just a continuation of the same middle finger. Like this would be a PR nightmare if they were trying to launch the Marvel Universe from scratch. If we went back 20 years ago and this shit was coming out, I guarantee you Marvel would deal with it in a way that was way more satisfactory than the shit that they're probably going to do now, because they have power and they don't give a shit about the comics. They don't. Yep. So I think that what you're going to see is, I think you're going to see Disney and you're going to see Marvel bury these lawsuits. And I don't think, based on the past of Disney and their kind of power as far as, their legal power, I don't think Ditko's estate, and I don't think Don Heck's estate, and I don't think Gene Colan's and any of these other guys, I don't think they're going to get dick. I don't think they're going to get anything.
I think if they stay the course, because they did a smart thing getting the lawyer that was involved with the Siegel and Schuster lawsuit. I think they'll bird dog. They're not going to get what they want, but I think they'll bird dog Marvel long enough to get something. The question ultimately it comes down to this though: what we think doesn't matter. What are they going to get? And what they're going to get is as little as Disney can possibly give them.
Right. And I think that the bad publicity, I don't think they care about it the same way they used to. Like the Scarlett Johansson thing that's happening,
they don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care
the
about
other thing
that
too is
they care about the way the shareholders. That is it.
Yeah. The way it's being presented too, though, is they're presenting it as the estates being bad guys,
right?
Because they're saying that they're trying to reclaim the rights. What they really want is they want Marvel to compensate them for the rights. They don't really want to take the rights, because, like we said, where are they going to take them? But what are we going to say, Todd?
During the lifetime of Siegel and Schuster, before they passed, there were some things that happened. Right, and some admittance by DC and stuff that. So they came to a solution that said, we want to keep it. We're going to pay, and I think they were paid while they were alive. Some, it may not have been much, but at the time when it was made, it might have been, more than these guys had ever seen in their life. But so there was some precedent already set that they had some lawsuits that came to finality. They came to,
and Disney knows every bit of that. They know what precedents were already set, so they're going into this knowing a little bit of what the judges. I mean, a precedent set helps them know what to expect, and I mean the families can go after them as much as they want, but like Disney's got an army of lawyers, so depending on what those early precedents were, they know where they're going in, and they've got an advantage.
Yeah, and if you remember, Todd, there was a campaign to save the Superman creators.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the industry actually stepping up for Siegel and Schuster to put. I think it was around the time of like the Chris Reeves movie, if I'm not mistaken, around that time. And so there was some like shame that was put upon Warner Brothers. And the thing is, also, if you think about the pressure that the Kirby estate put on Marvel, before, I think it was even before he died, like Marvel didn't seem to care. Like,
because he lost.
Kirby lost he lost.
Yeah.
And there was terrible stories that came out about Marvel where they just threw away Kirby art and just like didn't return art to him. Like, I mean, Kirby couldn't have gotten screwed more by Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you're looking at like Marvel and Disney aren't Warner Brothers. So I think like what happened with the Superman creators isn't going to be the case with Marvel. I think that Chapek, the Bob Chapek guy that's running
Yeah.
is I don't think he gives a shit, and I think
He's a cutthroat.
What Clint said is
Yeah.
like it's going to be down to the shareholders. I think it's just that's who they care about, and that's their bottom line. So we should probably wrap it up, man.
I was just about to say I'm gonna have to jump off here pretty soon. So
Yeah. It's funny that we came back on the subject. We actually hit on some really good points, towards the
it's a good
end.
conversation, though. It was,
Right.
went off in
There's
different
something.
directions. I dug it.
Yeah.
There's something called the honeypot law that has to
Yeah.
do with this. I wish we had looked it up, but we'll do it another day.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We had a great evening with you. And every one of us has a YouTube channel. Go by, subscribe to the channel, support all these guys, and we're all pretty much putting out projects. So I know Clint, are you still in demand?
I am in demand with Blue Bombshell, and then me and Mandy are launching Pirate Queen 2 on October 15th. Just go and get on the sign-up list. We're going to have a bunch of secret discount tiers for the opening weekend that you can only get through the sign-up list. So sign up for Pirate Queen 2, and then Blue Bombshell is still in demand on Indiegogo. So check both of those out, and a lot of fun books.
Yeah, go back some boobs. And I know Todd is working on a book. So
Yeah.
do you have anything to plug?
Well, I'm gonna cross off one of the my bucket list things and do a European edition book with a European writer. So, and I just got the 5 pages to begin on that today.
Oh, killer! Yeah, let us see how it progresses. And
It's a pirate book, by the way.
Oh
Nice.
shit! Another pirate book.
I recommend pirate books. It's the new craze.
And I'm hoping to really get that sort of Buscema sort of quality to my inks and get a nice brush look and stuff like that. So
yeah, start looking at your Savage Sword of Conan books.
Robert Della Torre, another guy who does that so well.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and I know
Sweet.
Bob got he draws on live streams and stuff like that. Bob, do you have any ideas for a book? Are you going to put out?
I have a million ideas, but I got to get my skills up to the level first, man.
Nah, just dive in. Just dive in.
Just
No,
I'll just live fell there.
I am 100% serious.
You know what I heard here,
Do
Bob?
not wait for you to think you're ready. Just dive in.
You know what I'm
Clock is
hearing from
ticking.
Clint right now, Bob, is that Clint wants to draw your book.
Yeah. I'll draw a pinup or a cover for sure, man. Like, don't wait till you think you're ready. Just go for it, man.
And so Joe, are you still in demand?
Me?
Yeah.
No, actually,
Joe's got
just
something
launched.
that looks gorgeous.
I'm gonna
Wait,
be.
Joe just launched?
I'm gonna be launching the Reaper Destroyer Ash Can this Friday on Art and Stuff's 100th episode. So if you
Nice.
guys tune in for that, we'll have information how you can. It's not going to be an Indiegogo campaign. There's a thing that my partner Sean Arendt did, which was a direct DM for the Ash Can, and it's kind of a unique way of doing a campaign. It's not a campaign, so to speak, but it's basically if you DM with the PayPal information and your address, then we reserve a copy and we kind of get it right out to you. So the Ash Can I'm trying to get out by December and just kind of a preview and get you excited, hopefully get some excitement rolling for the
That
actual
looks
campaign
awesome.
that's going to be in April. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's going to be the first time I actually put something out, so it's going to be an Ash Can form, a lot of good extras in there. So yeah, tune in this Friday if you have a chance for Art and Stuff at 9:00. I'm going to be launching it then, and it's going to be a fun show.
Yeah, Joe puts out some quality artwork, man. It's good
Yes.
stuff. And you guys, Black and White is just starting its second 30
Yes.
as far as the campaign. We are almost, well, actually, we're over now. 800 backers, so we're closing in on 1,000 backers, and we're at 67,491. So
Nice.
1,000 backers is the sweet spot.
Mhm.
So we got 30 days to get there. So please go back, Black and White, and support all these guys. The Pontificators are the best. You guys in the chat are the best. So thanks again, and have a good night.